Well, Kevin Durant's doing his best to get you interested in the NBA playoffs. Not sure if that'll do it, though. So what do you think? Was it 40, 49 and 47? What did he do?
49, 17, and 10. Yeah.
Whew. 49, 17, and 10, and coming back from down 17, I think. The Nets, 6-point winner last night at home against the Milwaukee Bucks. That gets you in it all, Bill, or are you still much more interested in Tampa Bay, the Islanders last night, 4-2?
Yeah, I think I might. I think you're right. I flipped over. It was Tampa Bay pulled away late there in what was a pretty good contest there for about 30, 35, 40 minutes there. And then Tampa Bay pulls away really in the third quarter. But, I flipped over and caught the end of that. And you're right, the crowd was into it. Durant was hitting the off-balance three-pointers. Giannis is dropping beautiful handoff passes from Chris Middleton. We'll see where that series goes. 3-2 Nets. All I can envision is the television networks being thrilled. I know you'd have big names, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Harden, Kevin Durant, but I wonder how a Clippers Nets final plays on television.
Well, that's exactly what they want. By a mile.
You think it is?
Of course. Of course.
I don't know. Those two franchises, I think it's interesting because I was thinking about that last night because you've got so many big names that people would want to see, but sometimes we talk about it's franchises that's what draws people to television.
The Utah Jazz and the Phoenix Suns are going to draw people. Who's going to draw people? It's Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard, and it's Los Angeles and New York City. That's of course what the NBA wants.
The Suns, you're right. I can see where they wouldn't draw anybody. Nobody. I don't even know if half our listening audience can name one player on the Suns. Chris Paul would be the guy you're going for there. They have others, but yeah.
I just think it's not even close. That's what the NBA wants. They want the Clippers and they want the Nets, and that's the dream matchup.
Historically speaking, I don't think that's what they're. I don't know if there's a team.
They don't care about franchises. That's not what the NBA is anymore. The NBA is a player-driven league, and they care more about the markets than the franchises. I mean, yeah, would they love for LeBron and the Lakers to be in it? Sure, but the next best thing is the other LA team and Kawhi Leonard.
I don't know.
I don't even know that you can make another case for a different matchup.
The Clippers have been so bad for so many. Maybe new blood in it would be interesting. I don't know.
It's all new blood.
Yeah,
none of these teams have won a championship.
I'm aware that it's all new blood. I have watched the NBA for a while. I don't know if that's necessarily going to still draw people to the television. Your Washington sports this morning. Your need to argue. I know that you haven't watched the NBA like as long because you're only 25, but I don't know if the Clippers and the Nets are the two. Even though you say it's New York City and Los Angeles, you're talking about the lesser organizations in those two cities. I don't know if that's what draws people to. And Kevin Durant and James Harden are not then throwing Kyrie Irving. My goodness. Are those three, Patrick? Maybe three of the more. Could you put them in order as the three most disliked players in the NBA?
No, LeBron James is number one. I mean, that's what people aren't. That's not a bad thing though for the NBA. They want that. So I don't understand like what else you could be getting at. Like that is the dream matchup. That's what we want.
Yeah, maybe what I'm just getting at. I don't think ratings for the NBA will be that high this particular year. Maybe you're right. Maybe that's the dream matchup, and you're still going to get very poor ratings if that's what the finals ends up being.
Well, I'm glad we worked that all out here to start the show. From the Gamecock perspective, basketball yesterday, Alonzo Frink jumping in the transfer portal as well. I think a lot of Gamecock fans were hoping to have the big man back and to see him kind of progress in his career instead of that unfortunate year last year where he hardly got to play. And then there was obviously a big void in the post last year because of it. Bill, what do you make of Alonzo Frink not being a Gamecock basketball player moving forward, hopping in the transfer portal?
Yeah, the timing of it is strange. You're basically, if I understand correctly, I think next week is the start of summer session 2, I believe, is the official start. So, if he'd have left right at the end of the year in April, or if he'd have left in May, but I don't know if he went back home. I don't really know the background on what's going on with Frank. He had the weird medical issue this year and maybe opted out or had something. I'm not sure what exactly is going on with Alonzo Frank. Did he, and because then the season ends in April, the school year ends. Did he go back home and talk things over for a month and a half and then decide it was time to transfer? Did something else happen? Is there more with him medically that we don't know about, that he just needs to be closer to home? I find the timing just kind of strange, just because you had so much in between the end of the season. And then actually, Tim, think about this. South Carolina season actually ended at the beginning of March. And so I just find the timing odd. I feel like there's more there than we're aware of.
Yeah, and Frank, obviously, not just the only Gamecock jumping in the transfer portal. What is the number now? What can we do that? Do you have that one offhand, Bill? I believe it's 6. That sound right to you? 6 guys from last year's team transferring. Obviously, point guard, 7th Woods, I think the most recent one. You had Trey Anderson in there. You had another point guard in Trey Hannibal. That's 4. Jalen McCrary is 5. And who am I missing as far as the
you got Mania. Did Justin Mania ever? I think he's going to Providence, I believe. He would be
Mania
6.
was 6, and then Moss is 7, correct?
I think you're right on that. And then you count AJ Lawson leaving to go to the NBA. That's 8. If you want to just throw his name
8
as well.
8 guys who could have had more eligibility leaving the program. 7 official transfers, I think, is the number that we got up to there. Just doing it off the top of our heads. The news for Gamecock football, kind of on the other side of that spectrum, it's walk-on receiver Trey Adkins, no longer a walk-on receiver, and announced yesterday that now put on scholarship and won't have to continue his job delivering pizzas to earn extra money there. Trey Adkins, a guy who was the last of public comments I think we saw, was just talking about how much he loved Carolina football and how it was a dream of his growing up in the state of South Carolina to play for the Gamecocks. And I know a lot of fans kind of attached to that sentiment. And now Trey Adkins placed on scholarship as a wide receiver at South Carolina. Certainly a good story, and will be interesting to see if he gets back on the field this year and can contribute. A guy who has seen some significant playing time, especially towards the end of last year, Bill.
Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, I don't know the entire scholarship situation for South Carolina with where they're at in relation to 85, and also I guess I should go back and look with players getting an extra year because of the COVID year. A guy like Jabari Ellis coming back after having a free year last year. I didn't even think about the scholarship situation until you just kind of mentioned this. With what teams are allowed to have, I guess it's a year that you can go over the 85 number is players cycle out, and maybe you've got to get to it next year. But good for him, and certainly a guy that maybe is able to contribute. They're looking for anybody to step up in that wide receiver room, and quite frankly, I think I'm trying to think very quickly. He's been on the field, Tim, quite about as much as anybody else they're going to jog out there. Is that right? Josh Vann, I guess, has probably been out there a little bit more. Maybe DeCarrion Joyner's been out there maybe a little bit more, but I think Trey Adkins has about as much experience as anybody else that goes out there.
Ended up playing in 10 games, I think, in last year. Caught 5 balls originally from Simpsonville, 78 yards, so averaging more than 15 yards a catch. And I think Van certainly has a lot more experience on the field, maybe not a lot more stats to go with. I was going to look up his career numbers as well. And then some of the transfers, probably a little bit more experience there. But that's the thing when you have a new coaching staff, the experience, and that's what you take some of what the coaching staff has said. Like offensive coordinator Marcus Satterfield says he didn't even know who was on the team, who wasn't on the team in years past, and the whole thing. And it's just approaching it from a fresh perspective. I don't know how much to take that on face value or not, but certainly experience there and has a chance to to be a guy to contribute for Carolina moving forward. And I always love those walk-on videos, man. When they announce, I'm still a sucker for them. I know they're not necessarily new on social media. Gamecock football putting it out last night, both his call to his dad to announce the news to the family, and then Shane Beamer's announcement in front of the whole team while they're in their post-meeting breakdown. And he singles out Trey Atkins and tells him he won't have to go to his job anymore and he's on scholarship. Always a good feeling. I always get a good feeling when I watch those videos, for sure. So we've got Alonzo Frink headed to the transfer portal in the basketball front, and then a walk-on getting a scholarship on the Gamecock football front. Who knows where else the conversation will go this morning. I'm just glad Patrick has taken off. It's not a neck brace. What did you call that thing that you had going on there? It's like a neck massager?
It's a heating pad. Yeah.
The world's oldest 25-year-old now battling the stiff neck. Never good. Only looking left today. Is that what you're saying right now?
Yeah, it's really bad. I can't look up. It's actually really bad.
What'd you do?
Also,
I don't know. It's been just adding up the last 48 hours. Manual labor does not help either.
No doubt about it. We'll see if Patrick can make it through this morning, playing through the pain. Hope you're doing well out there on a Wednesday morning. 803-404-6100 is the number in the program. If you would like to join, love to hear some of your thoughts. You can call or text us at the same number there. The early NBA discussion, getting our first comments coming in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Wait, the NBA still playing? Gamecock Will says it's June already. So it is the NBA playoffs and how long it takes. Neil says, I agree with Bill. The Nets and Clippers have near zero interest from their own markets. It would not be a highly watched finals. I agree with that historically, but I think in 2021, it's a little bit different. Now, I'm not going to argue that the Nets are number one in the New York area over the Knicks anymore, or right now, or the Clippers are number one over the Lakers right now. But from the NBA's perspective, I think I'm on Patrick's side of that discussion, where you want the big TV markets in there and you want the big names. And the big names this year are on the Clippers and Nets of the teams left, I think. When you don't have LeBron James in the NBA finals for the first time in forever, it seems like, I think there will be a big hole there and probably sagging viewership, but we'll see. There's still a long way to go there, and if Kevin Durant can keep lighting things up like he did last night in a historic way, and we'll see how it goes. Again, 404-6100 is the number. We're up and rolling on Facebook, YouTube Live, on Twitter as well with the video stream. David, Rodney, Craig, DC, all up early with us there. Glad you're a part of the program. Getting you through on a Wednesday. It's the early game. It's 107.5 the game.
This is South Carolina head women's basketball coach Dawn Smith. You're listening to the home of the Gamecock.
Get some coffee real quick. I got to set up. I need it earlier.
That heating pad looked pretty fancy, man.
It's not. It vibrates, so it doesn't actually do any massaging. But the heating part is nice. It's just not. I think it's more like lower down, so the neck pad itself isn't that helpful.
It's the worst, man.
Yeah.
I mentioned one time that the last time, maybe when we had our golf tournament, that I took this folding chair that I'm sitting on out there and I left it in the station vehicle. So I had to sit on like just the folding like
up, yeah.
Here. And that just messed me up big time. I'm back and totally like locked up.
Yeah.
When I was talking.
My headset is so tangled up, it also pulls me forward. Doesn't help.
Just all kind of issues this morning.
Yeah, I tell you what. Have you taken anything for it, or?
No, I don't really have anything to take. I need like a muscle relaxer, but I don't have any of that. I'll just Get the full-size heating pad out for later today.
Impressive.
Are you able to sleep on it at all? Or is
Yeah, I'll be able to sleep, I think.
we can get into if you want to kind of go down a path today, with it being Austin's first day at camp, maybe I think we've done your best memory, maybe, or something, but maybe your worst memory of a camp,
Sounds good to me.
what to avoid.
Oh, so Southern Cal got a defensive lineman out of Georgia? Maybe. Yep. Oh.
Mikael Williams, is that who it is?
Yep.
Yeah, every once in a while, Southern Cal
I didn't catch any of that. We had I'm not echoing, but Bill just did.
Let's see here. Alcon offered a 2024 safety, Kelvin Hunter out of West Florence.
Tonight, I'll be eating a pork barbecue with extra jalapenos. Thanks.
I mean, he's 15.
Is that right? Golly, is that right? Yeah, it sounds about right. I didn't read the article the other day. It just came up on Twitter that Tennessee had offered a 7th grader.
I watched that. They put out a video. Their baseball team did with Peyton Manning. You guys see that?
No, I didn't see that.
Pretty good. Him just basically yelling Omaha.
Oh, Tennessee lost Malachi Wideman, huh? Interesting. I was trying to find that Tennessee article. I can't decide if this week is dragging by or zipping by.
Kind of
Well,
a big
tomorrow-
difference.
It worked, so go with the last one.
What'd you say?
Since tomorrow's our last day of the work week, I'd say zipping by.
Yeah. Well,
Sounds like you just.
I don't know if I'd register that one there, Chief. Yeah, I saw that Craig K-Tron Purdy, I think. Purdy. Everybody is very active this morning. Very exciting.
All right, guys are up.
Hey, would love to have your help tomorrow. It's our summer blood drive, the American Red Cross, right there on Bull Street in downtown Columbia, 10 to 4 tomorrow. Pre-registration strongly encouraged. You can do it on our website, 1075thegate.com. Walk-ins are also welcome. Everybody who comes and donates gets added into a raffle for a chance to win a pair of tickets to Carowinds. That's our summer blood drive tomorrow with the American Red Cross on Bull Street, downtown Columbia, 10 to 4 hours. So you said your son is starting camp today, Bill. I've at my house, and I've done something that I never thought I would do several times now as a parent. I went ahead and signed my oldest up for basketball first, and then baseball. And he said he didn't want to do it, and he's that kid who just needs some convincing to do something. And if you give him a little push, that he's gonna be fine. And so now it's a camp issue with baseball camp after having played baseball and the whole thing. Said didn't want to go, and we're like, yeah, we're signing up. So we had that conversation going the other day. What about yours? A better attitude heading to camp today? I'm guessing than the convincing and cajoling it takes for my old.
Yeah, he's pretty excited. I'm interested to see how he does. We're gonna go get some coaching lessons from a state champion coach over there, and a good buddy of mine, Ben Lee, who I grew up playing with at River Bluff. So, figure we'll go over there. This is his first. He's done a soccer camp for Kevin Heisey before, but I think it was more of kind of a laid back deal. So he's got this will start 6 straight called business days because he doesn't have anything on the weekend. 6 straight business days of camp. He's got 3 of basketball this week and 3 of soccer next Monday and Tuesday for Kevin over there at Gray Collegiate. And so it'd be interesting. I just like watching him compete and seeing how he does. But I remember a lot of my camp experiences growing up and the fun that I had going and participating, and especially going to South Carolina camps or Clemson baseball camps. I went to a couple of Clemson baseball camps and meeting new people and just competing against people that were different than I got to see on a daily basis in Lexington.
Yeah, got to meet a lot of people both at Eddie Fogler basketball camps and June Raines baseball camps growing up as well. And just being on the college campus, I think, made me feel big time when I was that age. Did you get that feeling as well?
I think I did that once, obviously with Columbia, being right down the road for me. I guess because you were from Greensboro, so when you did that, did you had to stay on campus for the week? Your dad didn't come down, or family didn't come down and get a hotel. Y'all stayed on campus. So I never had to do that. I stayed in the dorms at Clemson one time, and that was pretty interesting. That was kind of an interesting experience. But yeah, with South Carolina camp, since we were right here. Usually we just go back and forth in the morning and at night. I think I did an all day camp for South Carolina basketball, like when I was in 7th or 8th grade. And nothing bad. I was trying to think of any bad experiences I ever had at camps, anything that kind of went sideways on you. But I think everything went pretty smoothly for me.
I think that happened with my high school basketball team a couple of years in front of me, which is why we never did the high school basketball team camps when I got there. Unfortunately, I remember the report of like dumping water on somebody's head while they're in the bathroom or something. I don't know. There's a whole thing.
Oh no. That's different. At Lexington, I guess the tradition, we would go to Presbyterian team camp, and it would be the older players that would haze the younger players. You couldn't do this kind of stuff nowadays, but the 7th and 8th graders, I managed to avoid all this, but the seniors would give the 7th or 8th graders swirlies and then shave their head. And the one
Jim's
year,
eyes just lit up. The shaving of the head, I think, took it too far.
Well,
yeah. Well, I mean, they'd use like
That's
a one
summer.
guard. They'd use a one guard, and
Summer cut.
one or two guard. But the first year I went was the last year that occurred. Two guys. One of them was a basketball player who was about 6'4", about 290, and he would just come stand in the doorway, and you weren't going anywhere. Like,
Right. It just eclipsed all the light in the doorway. All of a sudden,
we had,
pretty dark.
what ended up happening that caused us to miss a game or caused all this to come to a stop was a group of guys that I was playing with got trapped in the room, and two of the seniors were waiting outside of the dorm room at PC's team camp to do the unofficial welcome to PC team camp to give the swirly and the shaving of the head. And I think about 6 or 7 players that I was playing with got trapped in the room, and they didn't show up to the game on time, because at PC team camp you would walk down to wherever you were, whatever gym we were playing at. And so there was only about 3 of us that showed up, and Joey Lawson was our coach at the time, and he couldn't figure out what was going on. And by the time they showed up, word had gotten back around that the seniors were mistreating the younger players. And then Coach Harris had to have a discussion with everybody that would no longer be tolerated.
It happens for sure. Patrick, what about you? Any good camp memories or otherwise from the younger days?
I don't have. I was trying to think of anything bad. I mean, I really don't have any bad camp memories. I only stayed away at one. I only stayed away at one camp ever. That was probably my freshman year of high school, I think, at Roanoke University. But everything was cool there. I mean, that was my first time basically staying by myself for a couple of days. But I had a friend that came with me, so we had a good time. I only did sports camps too. I didn't do anything other than that. And yeah, the only thing, I mean, I definitely would always be nervous. The first day of camp, thinking about Austin doing the first day of camp, like I would always have to, we were very timely, so I'd always be the first one there to sign in. And then you're just I remember standing around on the field for half an hour waiting for everyone else to show up, not saying a word because I was a very shy kid. So, I mean, I always hated the first day of camp, but then by the third or fourth day, you warm up to it and you've made friends by the end of camp. So, I mean, the first day was always nerve-wracking, I felt like. The only thing I hated about camp is that my basketball camps, we had to play shirts versus skins game, and I hated doing that. I hated being on the skins team. That's literally the only bad memory I have of, I think, sports camp growing up, is they made me be on the skins team. Like, I don't want to do that.
You were always stuck on the skins team?
Oh, no, it just felt like that because you remember those games more. But we would fight for it. Everybody wanted to be shirts.
Couple distinct memories for me from Gamecock basketball camp, playing against Ryan Stack when he was still in high school on his way to Carolina. And I was not impressed with him early on and convinced that he would never play in college basketball, and obviously turned out to be a really good college player. And I get to the NBA a little bit and seeing Bud Johnson play pickup games as well in the old Saul Black E Center, and being absolutely convinced he was going to dominate college basketball the way he was playing pickup games. And that's when I realized my future as a basketball scout was going to be limited, because I completely got both of those guys wrong. Speaking of Gamecock basketball, we mentioned a little bit earlier Alonzo Frink entering the transfer portal, and 7th guy in the Gamecock perspective. Bill, the other Gamecock basketball news from yesterday, I hadn't even touched on yet, was the announcement of the Georgetown home and home series. And if we're going to go back to camp memories and the whole thing, certainly memories of Georgetown are strong. And now that Patrick Ewing is their coach, trying to get them back to where John Thompson had them back in the heydays as an 80s power and a perennial power.
He's on the hot seat.
Right. But made the NCAA tournament at least last year, and made headlines in the Big East tournament about people not knowing who he was at Madison Square Garden. I just had my kids yesterday watch Space Jam for the first time, and he had a pretty prominent role in that 1996 classic, ahead of, I guess, the new Space Jam being released in about a month or so. But what do you make of the announcement of the home and home series with Georgetown for the Gamecocks? It's going to be December 5th at the Colonial Life Arena, and then next December in 2022, going to be headed up to Patrick's hometown area up in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, the first thing I thought when I saw this was the way it was worded, I guess, is that it will be a weekend game next year up in DC. And it's probably the first time I've ever seen a basketball away game that I was like, ooh, yeah, I think I kind of want to go to that. Yeah, I might make a weekend of it, go up to DC and check out some areas, but I figured I better defer to Patrick and find out what I'm getting myself into if I'm going into that area because I'm unfamiliar with that. But real quick, just to finish, and then Patrick, I kind of want to hear on the DC area and go into a game there. But Tim, I guess I remember South Carolina seemed to play Georgetown 4 or 5 times, I believe, in the Dave Odom era, I believe is what it was. I think they had some multiple games against them. So a little bit of history there between the two teams. But it'll certainly be a fun game at Colonial Life Arena this coming year as we continue to see this basketball team. You mentioned the Alonzo Frank transfer take shape.
The last matchup I remember specifically, the NIT game, I'm pretty sure Jeff Green was involved in that thing. And Jeff Green, I think, is still in the NBA right now. And that game was in 2005, which is absolutely incredible.
Jeff Green's on the Nets.
Right?
Yeah.
I was foul with a big game in that one on the way to, I forget if that was the first NIT championship, the first 2 in a row. I think that Carolina won. That one was over St. Joseph's in the finals and Maryland in the semis. That I'm being refreshed on looking at the release from yesterday. What do you think, Patrick? Should Bill make the trip up to Georgetown in 2022 to watch the Gamecocks?
The problem with that is that Georgetown doesn't have a home court. Like, they play in the Wizards Arena, and the games stink. Like, they have no fans anymore. I mean, Georgetown is a proud basketball university. Like, it's a little inconvenient for kids to have to go from campus all the way into the arenas in Chinatown from Georgetown. It's kind of a long trip, so they just never have any fan support at those games. So the environment around the basketball game itself will not be very good. I mean, it's just there's like maybe a couple thousand people in the lower bowl, and it's just more than half empty arena. It's a very sad sight to see, having grown up hearing about how amazing those teams were back in the day, in the early days of the Big East. So, I mean, yeah, Georgetown, the campus is absolutely gorgeous, and the area around there is really, really cool. But if you're going thinking, oh, storied basketball arena, legendary players, Patrick Ewing, you're going to be very disappointed when you walk into Capital One Arena and see half the lower bowl filled in an empty arena.
Yeah, two years away. You're right. We don't know. Obviously, South Carolina will play Georgetown this year, and we'll get to see Patrick Ewing on the sidelines. I'm trying to go back very quickly here and see, because I believe we're starting to get some of the schedule now for South Carolina's basketball. I believe there'll be a game against Western Kentucky, UAB, University of Alabama, Birmingham. Obviously, the game against Clemson will be on the schedule. There is a multi-team event, I believe, that will take place in Asheville that will include 3 other teams. So you're starting to see some of the schedule come together for this coming year. But I again got kind of excited about thinking about going up there next year. And Patrick, who knows, if you catch it on the right weekend, maybe, I don't know what the distance is for a Redskins football game from Landover maybe
be good to catch it.
A bunch of things.
Be great to catch it on a weekend that the Terps are playing a home game, because that is the one team in that area that actually has electric atmospheres every single game. So make it a DC area basketball weekend and see Terps and Georgetown play. Terps are easily number 1 in that market, and then I think Georgetown, like, people still, I don't know, comparing them to the Wizards. Like, Maryland has far more of a fan base than the Wizards do. Georgetown, I think, people have those memories. Like, people your age and my parents, like, they have great memories of Georgetown back in the day, but it's just not the same. They've been kind of miserable ever since I've been alive.
Bill, I'm interested to hear how you think about it, because I got 4 years on you, being 43 and you're 39, and I still didn't. The first, I guess, when the famous Sleepy Floyd passing the ball away to North Carolina there, and the Michael Jordan 82 final, I think that was before my time. I do remember distinctly, though, Patrick Ewing, and then obviously Alonzo Mourning after that, Dikembe Mutombo, those guys. I mean, I would put Georgetown up there in the top 3 probably in college basketball programs of perennial powerhouses when I was growing up. Where would you put them, in your top 10 or so, or were you a little too late to get there?
Yeah, I really don't remember Patrick Ewing, Alonzo Mourning. I like his senior year, I believe, was like the kind of
My version is Roy Hibbert. That's the one I remember.
Right.
Well, I just looked. I just looked. South Carolina and Georgetown have played 4 times. South Carolina 1-3. That series that I was talking about took place in 2001, 2002. South Carolina lost by 2 at home to Georgetown, and then went to DC in 02, 03 and lost by 8. Michael Sweetney, Patrick, I don't know if you remember him, had a 27.11 rebound game that pushed he out battled Rolando Howe in the post. There is what I was kind of reading the recap on that. Surprisingly, they don't have a recap from the 1922 game in which Georgetown won 31-14. That was basketball. It took me a minute to make sure.
Do you remember what it was that started the decline? Was it the end of Thompson Jr.? Because I just remember JT3, and they were fine, but they were never great.
My Georgetown memory is really Allen Iverson is what I was, and I remember Allen Iverson. I think they played down in Tallahassee at a regional, their first round games, and I think they ended up losing. Allen Iverson, but I feel like what started their decline was the way is that John Thompson never adjusted more to the one and done type player. Because I think Allen Iverson was like kind of the last massive player that Georgetown managed to land out of that area. And then I'd have to go back and see when exactly John Thompson retired. But
he was fired.
Okay. I mean, it's been a while, right? Like
2017. Are we talking about junior or third?
No, we're talking about senior.
He retired in '99. There was another coach between them. Do you remember who was between the Thompsons?
Ooh, great question.
Because he was not good. He coached for 5 years, and his winning percentage was .597. So, I mean, I would assume that that was the lowest point there.
That's a fun game to play. Can you give us some hints? Let's go. Not a single hint.
He played at Georgetown from 74 to 78.
Wait for my time not helping me out. Give us some initials.
CE.
CE. He's a tricky one for our last name.
We are gonna get this one. I can.
No, hit us up.
Craig Escherick.
Oh,
there we go. Yeah.
Yep, I remember that guy. I can see him right.
I've never heard of him
now.
Before right now.
Well, Patrick, you're talking about what was the decline. Well, first of all, it wasn't going to get better. Like, it couldn't have gotten better than playing for national championships in consecutive years there, the mid 80s. And Patrick Ewing was the #1 overall pick, I believe, and just kind of dominated college basketball. And then Alonzo Mourning kind of takes the crown from him. The Allen Iverson era, I remember, Bill, being controversial for sure with the trouble that Iverson got into as a high school senior, I believe it was. What was it? The bowling alley, and a fight broke out and the whole thing. I think police were involved and charges were filed, and that was a whole mess. But it was just not quite able to stay at the top of college basketball because you had the rise of Duke at this time as well, right? So early 80s, Duke basketball, pretty non-existent. Georgetown dominant. And then you see them kind of flip, I guess, in the next decade or so. And it's been very difficult for Georgetown to get back to being anywhere close to where they were. I think a lot of it might have to do with what you're talking about, just the games on campus and really being able to recruit the top-notch players, because they certainly
they're not getting any of the best players out of the DMV.
Do you guys know the last time Georgetown went to the Final Four?
I can't remember it.
Was back in the 80s, right? Let's see. If it was back in the 80s, then it might be 85. Is that too far?
Yeah, you're 22 years off.
Oh wow, 2007. Then is that what you're telling me?
They were apparently in the Final Four in 2007.
Wow.
Jeff Green was on that team. Roy Hibbert, Jonathan Wallace. They had Patrick Ewing Jr. Was on that team. Vernon Macklin was on the team. I was just looking at Georgetown basketball history as we kind of sit here and start talking about this. They were a 2 seed in the East Regional that year and won the Big East tournament and got to the Final Four. That was one of Florida's years that they won it. but you had Florida and Ohio State ended up playing for the national championship that year, and then you
Is that Greg Oden's Ohio State team?
yeah, Greg Oden and Mike Conley, and then you had Georgetown and UCLA were in the Final Four. I was shocked to just learn that Georgetown was in the Final Four in 2007.
That's how it goes some days. Interested in looking at the Georgetown view of this announcement from yesterday, mentioning the all-time record and going back to the series in the first game in 1923. And then TCU, I guess, part of Georgetown's out-of-conference schedule this year, as well as another tournament where Southern Cal, St. Joseph, San Diego State involved. So interesting series for sure for the Gamecocks. I think any kind of non-conference name value that Frank Martin and company can add, I think is always good for Gamecock basketball to generate interest in those times where they're fighting for interest from any kind of football fans and football season still ongoing at that point. So we'll see how it goes this year in Columbia. And then in 2022, they're going to return the trip in December up to Washington, D.C. to take on the Hoyas that used to be the class of college basketball for sure, way back in the 1980s. 803-404-6100, the number into the program. Love to hear some of your camp stories that we were talking about. And LJ Peak, Craig asking, did he ever make it any further than college? I think he might have played some professional overseas basketball, talking about the former
Currently plays for the Kumamoto Vultures.
Is that?
I feel like that would be
the Bangladesh Premier League.
Bangladesh.
Would have taken a lot of guesses to get to Bangladesh for him.
Could have done that one all day. Thank you for saving us from our lack of worldly.
Yeah, but between not knowing the coach after John Thompson Sr., what year Georgetown was last in the Final Four, and that one, this whole segment could have really gone sideways on us, and we would have never gotten any of those answers.
Could have.
Nah.
It's the game on 107.5 game.
Is it a bad drive?
No.
It's
not a bad drive. I've made that drive 5 million times.
All right.
Well, 95 can get nasty with traffic. Depends on how you want to do it.
It can, yeah.
I don't know who you would put in front of them in the 80s.
Was Houston in the 80s?
Yep. Just more early 80s.
Yeah.
Georgetown back in the 1980s. See what pops up.
So it looks like Thompson's last 2 years, he made the NIT and was 16 each year.
Well, I was looking at John Thompson Jr.'s record, and I saw that Final Four listed on there, and I was like, oh.
But yeah,
I think we're having a communication breakdown. So the John Thompson that we know was John Thompson Jr.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Make sure we're all on the same page. Yeah, how about Sweet 16 in 80, 82, 84, 85, 87, 89?
Yeah, he had it going.
Whoa, it's the Elite Eight in all those years, too. Holy crap.
You said there was an Elite Eight in all those years?
Yep, 80, 82, 84, 85, 87, 89. Woo. Made the tournament every single year from 1979 to 92 through 97, only missed in 93. Wow.
Estrich only made the NCAA's one.
Yeah, there's a gap between 97 and 01 and then 01 to 2006. And a gap until last year's. Before last year, the last time they made the tournament was 2015.
And they shouldn't have been a tournament team last year.
Right, they had to win their Big East tournament.
Yeah.
So maybe we do the college football version of Georgetown basketball.
I'm
Miami.
thinking, all right.
Nebraska. I think it's going to be Nebraska.
I think it's Miami.
It's pretty good.
Kind of say Florida State.
Yeah,
Miami doesn't have a home stadium, right?
right. It's pretty good.
Miami?
Yeah, I think all three of us have valid arguments for those programs, those comparisons.
Sweeping the floor. I'm starting to feel bad that I didn't feed the kids enough last night. There was food all over the floor. Now I hope they got some in their mouth. Yeah, I saw that. There's a good bourbon bar up there in DC too. I'm sure there's plenty of them, but
Wow, I'm looking at Estrich now, and like his bio just stops or when he was fired at Georgetown. That's it.
he was so bad he was never hired again.
There's just no more information.
Just fell off the face of the earth, huh?
But he does have his law degree, so maybe he just pivoted.
And then practicing law.
He was a color guy for someone.
Oh yeah, he did some. I mean, you would think that would be in here or something.
So we're going,
Wow,
going
28.
straight into the end hour bed.
Straight into the end of our bed.
Thank you.
Yep. Caller's still there. May not have time though.
What's that?
Caller is still there, but I don't know that you have the time. You're up.
Nebraska football. That's what I went with. Bill went with Florida State football. I think it was a pretty good one. Patrick, I think you probably nailed it, though, with Miami football, the correct comparison to Georgetown basketball. A lot has to do with the lack of, I guess, student support, or I don't even know what you would put exactly, fan support in general, home field or home court advantage.
Yep, talent-rich area, but no home court and difficult school to get into. There's a lot of parallels there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about Miami being the private school and the whole deal. Nice campus. Coral Gables being that exclusive area. Congratulations. You win hour number one, Patrick. Hope that neck's feeling better. Rolling into hour number two. Who knows where the show will go. Hope your Wednesday is going well. We'll try to make it even better. Hour two on the way.
This is Gamecock Athletics Beyond 10.
Ugh.
But none of you went to journalism camp.
Nope.
How was journalism camp, Jen?
It was actually. I enjoyed it. I went to volleyball camp. I went to church camp. Went to journalism camp. Yeah, I was a nerd.
I'm trying to think if there was ever a weird camp that I went to, like what you said. I don't.
When was journalism camp though? I never went to another camp after 8th grade.
It was
I
last
was
summer.
a sophomore in high school because I was the yearbook editor my junior and senior year. So.
So because I didn't know what I wanted to do when I stopped going to camp.
You didn't know what you wanted to do?
No, because I stopped going to camp after it. Once I got into high school, I wasn't doing camp anymore because it would be. That's when I started playing like serious travel ball and was like gone every weekend this summer.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
travel ball and team camps that we would go to. I did have one summer where I had there was a bunch of camps, individual camps lined up for basketball, but I don't even think I made it to the last one up in Belmont. Did you ever do, Jen? I don't know if they would have done it up here. I'm trying to remember what it was. They used to do it. It was a camp, and obviously I wouldn't have qualified. It was a camp setting, but it was like government or whatever. They always did it here down in Charleston. I can't remember what it is. It was like for smart kids. I think you set up like government or maybe nations.
Oh, yeah, like little UN type.
Yeah.
Mock UN.
Huh?
They call them mock UNs, I think.
I can't remember. Yeah, I didn't know if that would count as camp. The only reason I even know about it is because we did a team camp at College of Charleston one summer, and they were doing that thing. So there was a bunch of, we had time in between games. There was a bunch of girls down there, high school girls that were down there, as opposed to college girls. So we were able to meet Boys State. Yep, but they had girls too. I don't know why it was called Boys State.
But I thought they did that in Columbia.
The one year that I was, I don't know, my junior year, I know that, and I can't remember. I'd have to go back. Speaking of Georgetown, tie this all together. Cortland Freeman was playing at Socastee. I think it was Socastee at the time, and he ended up going to Georgetown. Because I remember we ended up playing them at that camp. Cortland Freeman was about a 6'6", 6'7" forward. I want to say it's Socastee.
There were lots of government camps in D.C. that kids would go to.
Oh, I'm sure.
Every day. Yeah.
I don't know anybody when I went to Eastern Illinois University's volleyball camp. Don't know anybody that went on to do great things in the volleyball world.
Yeah, he was.
Now it's coming full circle with the first game of the season against Eastern.
Exactly. That's what I think is kind of cool.
I remember watching LJ Peak against Shaq Rowland, I think it was, in the state final games, Gaffney and Lexington. Did you go to that game at all back in the day, Bill?
Yep, I was on the bench. I sat down on the bench for that game.
Oh, wow. Peak
That was Lexington.
incredible.
We had a lead. We had a lead going into the fourth, and Peak was, I think, a freshman, and Shaq was a junior.
Yeah, I wouldn't say sophomore and junior, but you might be right about freshman. He was incredible.
Well, he was, because that game he was a post player, and then he developed into a wing player as he got older. And but he was a post player, and he had the red tips on his hair that game.
Yep.
And but anyway, they ended up coming back in the fourth and beating us. We had a good team. We had a bunch of really good players. I don't think any of them necessarily went to college. They were just a really good team together. But that was a tough loss for us. That was one of the last years I was really involved in it.
Yeah, I was amazed that Peak was taking over in a state championship game as a freshman or sophomore, whatever it was. Ridiculous. I think he ended up going his senior year somewhere else beside Gaffney and then came back or something. It was weird.
He went up to Chicago.
Right.
He went up to Chicago, and then I can't remember if he came back or not.
He did.
And, of course, he did an announcement that we were at.
Throwing down the Gamecock hat and announcing Georgetown.
There's a lot I know about that recruitment.
Yeah.
I know this. That was right when I was really doing scouting. And we all thought, I say we, everybody in basketball thought he was going to play for Leonard Hamilton at Florida State. And as a matter of fact, Georgetown knew they were in it, but they didn't know they were getting him. And I was doing a radio. I was doing something up there. I was at the school. He and Shaq Davidson committed together, and I got a phone call from a Georgetown assistant when he committed. He was like, "Wait, did he really just commit to us?" And I was like, "Yeah." He said he's going to Georgetown. He's like, "We really didn't know that was going to happen. We thought he was going to Florida State."
Wow.
I mean, they really didn't know. South Carolina thought he was coming. He's like according to one story that I was told, he had sat in the office with Frank Martin and basically
They
said,
were.
coming.
I remember him at Georgetown. I didn't know he was even from here or that there was any story like that until this morning.
There was some people that got involved in his recruitment. And
I just remember him being on terrible Georgetown teams with Devontae Smith Rivera.
well, you say that. I was just looking back at Cortland Freeman. Cortland Freeman was at Georgetown from 99 to 2004. Those were some bad Georgetown teams.
That the post Iverson era, I'm guessing, right after Iverson.
No, that was after the Iverson era.
So that means Peak probably played for.
He played for JT3.
But did he ever make it? Did he make it to Ewing? He was there. He was drafted in 2017, and Ewing was and JT3 was fired in 17. So
We're back in the open.
you got John Thompson III fired.
Was LJ Peak drafted?
No, or I didn't mean drafted. He entered into the draft
Yeah,
after he graduated.
Okay. I didn't think he went in the second round.
You're up.
Kevin Durant goes off in the NBA playoffs. Alonzo Frink exits the Gamecock basketball program while Carolina adds Georgetown to the schedule with the home and home series. Welcome into hour number 2. Hope your Wednesday's going well. Tim Hill, Bill Gunter, Patrick Perrette, and Jen Jensen. Full house with you as we sit in the middle of June and kind of transition still out of college baseball season and head towards the preseason of Gamecock football with the news that there is a new scholarship wide receiver on the Gamecock roster. And you can see that announcement on Gamecock social media there. Gamecock football putting that out yesterday. And it's hard to feel bad for Trey Atkins. I mean, it's hard not to feel good for him, I guess is the best way to put that, especially knowing that he's been delivering pizzas to help pay for college while he's been on the Gamecock football team. And we saw him work his way onto the field towards the end of last season, has played in 10 games in his career, ended up with 5 catches last year, and now is a scholarship football player. It's a bit of a feel-good story there, kind of I guess it's not the total opposite, but it is. I don't know what to feel about the Alonzo Frink news from yesterday. Bill, we talked about in hour number 1. You just mentioned how the timing was kind of odd here. I mean, certainly not a shock that there's another Gamecock basketball transfer. He makes it 7, I think, from the roster last year. And if you add A.J. Lawson in there, heading off to professional basketball, that's 8 kind of defections from the program. And Frink, unfortunately, didn't really get to play it all last year. We never really got a full explanation there. It clearly seemed to be some health-related HIPAA instances there that was one of the reasons why, or probably the main reason why it wasn't a full discussion. But Alonzo Frink not going to be a Gamecock basketball player moving forward. Another scholarship opens up for Frank Martin and company. What do you make of the news as we continue to digest it at 7:05 this morning?
Yeah, the timing based on now I don't again, I don't know what we will learn or what will be said or discussed. There is a player, according to John Whittle with the Big Spur, that South Carolina will likely replace Alonzo Frink with, and that is LSU's post player who's in the transfer portal, Josh Gray, who South Carolina initially recruited out of high school, 6'11", about 215 pounds, played 1 year at LSU. So I don't know if this is a situation where Alonzo Frink and Frank Martin agreed there was best to part ways. I don't know if, again, the timing is what throws me off, because when the season ends in March and you basically go March, April, May, and then yesterday was June 15th, you're in the middle of the month. What occurred in essentially, what is that, Tim? That's about 115 days, 105 days, roughly, give or take a day here or there. What occurred, over 105 days that leads you to transfer in the middle of June? Transfers are not odd. They're not odd for Frank Martin basketball teams. They're not odd across college basketball as a whole. So the transfer itself, it felt like the transfer thing was dying down. Frank Martin had already had his end of the season team meeting or player meeting. So who knows how this works out? Maybe Alonzo Frank found a better home, had already been contacted by somebody and knows exactly what he's about to do and go back closer to home. But certainly is a guy that I thought personally could have helped South Carolina last year had he been healthy, and that going into next year, I know we talked about the roster turnover, but you were going to have at least 4 guys back with significant experience in Cousineau, Bryant, Frank, and Williams-Levesque. And then you were going to plug a point guard in. It was going to be kind of weird that 4 of your 5 starters essentially were guys with lots of experience, and then obviously your bench, your rotation was going to be brand new guys. But now you're down to 3 guys. I mean, Williams-Levesque started a bunch of games, obviously Bryant, Cousineau. So it's a really weird makeup of a team when you talk about so many new players, but you talk about 3 of the main guys still coming back.
And now Gamecock basketball will be playing Georgetown this December. It'll be in Columbia. They'll return the trip up to Washington, D.C. in 2022. And Patrick, you mentioned to Bill earlier, who was saying, I might want to make that trip and see that game. I think you're advising not to necessarily, because the home court advantage or the home atmosphere for Georgetown basketball, not what you would imagine it might be.
Yeah, I don't know who's going to have a better home court advantage in that head-to-head matchup. I mean, I'm not advising against going to D.C. It's a great city. If you have a chance to go check out the campus of Georgetown, it's amazing. It's absolutely beautiful. But yeah, if you were going there expecting to find relics of the old Big East days in the 1980s, and you're not going to see any of that. All you're going to see is them swapping out the banners and the chairs on the court from Wizards to Georgetown. And
they do have a home court facility they don't play in very often, isn't that right?
Yeah.
It's very
but I don't know what the deal is with that. It doesn't make any sense to me why they wouldn't just play in, I guess, the smaller arena. Where did they play in the 80s?
Tim, I don't know.
Where did they play in the 80s? Yeah, I don't remember home venues necessarily. I think they still shared the court with the old Washington Bullets back then. But
so you don't remember with them, like when Syracuse would come to DC, you don't remember it being like a raucous environment?
No, not at all. I just remember the runs in the NCAA tournaments, and I remember them because the success is ridiculous. Going and checking out Georgetown basketball in the 80s, we all came up with kind of comparisons. I'm going with Nebraska football from the 80s. Bill mentioned Florida State back in the day, football comparison to Georgetown, and you probably came up with the best one, Patrick, with Miami, just because of the schools being private schools and really nice campuses, and then not really having an on-campus venue to develop any kind of continuity now. And then
ridiculous talent in those areas as well. I mean, Miami, we obviously know they were built, their dynasty was built on South Florida players. And I mean, Iverson and Mourning are from that area. Ewing's obviously Jamaican, but Georgetown's largely been able to bring the best players from DC, or was able to bring the best players from DC into Georgetown, and now they're all just leaving the state.
Elite Eight, 1980, 82, 84, 85, 87, 89.
Real quick, Patrick, this is actually very interesting. McDonough Arena, I believe, Memorial Gymnasium is what it's called. The capacity is listed at 2,200, although it apparently at one point seated between 3,500 and 4,000. However, you asked, well, why didn't they play big games? So they played in this arena from 1951 to 1981, an own campus arena. And then in 1982, they moved over to what was the Capitol Center, later known as U.S. Air Arena and U.S. Airways Arena in Landover. The Big East did not permit Georgetown to host conference games starting in 1982 because their gymnasium's small capacity. So that was why they couldn't host Big East games there during the 80s, because it was too small.
And remember, this was the heyday of Big East basketball, right? On ESPN. And there's a great, is that a 30 for 30? I think they did about it. Or
Requiem for the Big East. Yeah, it was the 30.
Yeah, that was the 30 for 30. It's fantastic. If you're 25 years old like Patrick and didn't get to see those days, or you're an old dude like me at 43, or remember those days a little bit better, it's certainly worth going back and checking out if you haven't done that one yet. But that's what I remember Georgetown basketball to be. Just massive big men and suffocating defense and intimidating and really, really good in the 1980s.
Yeah, and to finish this comment about going up there, I think, Patrick, what you were talking about, just going up there, I don't know if I'd necessarily go take this road trip just for the game itself, but I think the opportunity, maybe I can tie it in with a Capitals game. Maybe there'll be like a Capitals game on Friday night, and there's a lot to do on this road trip.
Well, there's a ton to do in DC for free as well. I mean,
this might actually be that actually is, again, there's not often times, because basketball is so different than football, that you get a good non-conference basketball game. South Carolina going to Michigan and Virginia comes to mind in recent years for non-conference games. But, the way the basketball games are, to travel that far, it's funny. We'll travel 10 hours, right, for a football game on a Saturday night. We'll drive all the way to Baton Rouge. People will leave on Friday. I think our good buddy Jan, this actually makes more sense, driving to Baton Rouge this past year for the LSU baseball series. But at least you're getting 3 games. The travel or willingness to hop in the car and ride for a long period of time and grab a hotel room for a night or two for a basketball game just isn't there. Patrick, for a Maryland basketball game where we talk about the intensity and the passion for the fan base, is there that more of a willing mindset to travel to another, say, if you wanted to, if Maryland was playing Michigan State on a Saturday afternoon, like people travel up on Friday, come back on Sunday?
Yeah, that's the problem with the Maryland deal, is there would definitely be people driving to Raleigh-Durham if they were going to play Duke, UNC, or NC State, because there was those historical rivalries. The problem now is they're so far from everyone in the Big Ten. You don't want to necessarily drive what would probably be like 14 hours or something like that to get to East Lansing to go see them play Michigan State. And they're kind of building the rivalries, but the only game that's travelable in a reasonable day, I guess under 8 hours, would be Rutgers, and nobody's driving up to New Jersey to see a Rutgers basketball game. So Maryland basketball has been just destroyed. The rivalries have been destroyed because they left the ACC. So it's just not the same. But yeah, I mean, everyone should go. If they have never been in the nation's capital, they should go to DC. And if that's an excuse to get you there, then sure. There's also a sports book in the arena. So I don't know if they do college betting.
Oh, that's the other day.
I don't know if that's the deal, but there's a William Hill sports book in the Capital One Arena now.
Yeah.
Jason says, I remember back in the day growing up near Syracuse, Georgetown basketball, public enemy #1. I love the old Big East, Jason says. On the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, Kelly, who's a Syracuse fan himself, says the building in Landover was packed when Syracuse and St. John's came to town. It kind of reminds me of what Miami football has been, like you mentioned, Patrick, that they can get good crowds, but it has to be a marquee game for sure. And then if it's not, then the town is largely uninterested historically. So I think that's the best comparison for sure. Georgetown basketball in the 80s, Miami football from back in the 80s and 90s, and now those programs not quite where they were for sure. But I still think it's good for Gamecock basketball. Would you agree, Bill, to add a name brand like Georgetown to its non-conference schedule?
Yeah, and I look, this was part of my question about South Carolina basketball this coming year, is how Frank Martin would elect the schedule, and I don't see him backing down on the schedule here. You see quality teams or teams I'm familiar with, Western Kentucky, Alabama, Birmingham. Now you've got a Georgetown. I don't see him scheduling. He very easily could have put 10 cupcakes on the schedule and allowed this team to kind of develop and have a really good record going into conference play. But that's not how Frank Martin likes the schedule. It's not what he wants to do. And so I think it's going to be this is a very good matchup. Obviously, you get it at Colonial Life Arena this year. Look, I'm not going to be someone that as we get closer to basketball season says, oh, it's a rebuilding year and that not making the tournament is perfectly okay. There's going to be expectations on this basketball team. And I think that so far from what I know about the basketball schedule, what we've seen kind of come out, I think it is a good schedule. Georgetown is a beatable team. You guys just mentioned it. They made the NCAA tournament. I forget if we mentioned it on air or off air, but they made the NCAA tournament because they had a fantastic run in the Big East and won it, not because they won enough games in the regular season to deserve to be in. So that'll be a game that South Carolina at Colonial Life Arena. If they get it on a Saturday afternoon, it should be a good crowd.
That's what I was going to ask. Are they a draw? Is the Georgetown brand enough to draw a big crowd no matter what?
I don't for South Carolina basketball. I don't know if they're there might be. No, I don't think, to answer your question. No, I don't think so. I don't think South Carolina fans. I'm trying to think Duke and North Carolina are never coming to Colonial Life Arena.
Right. Syracuse,
Patrick.
I don't know, UCLA or something like crazy like that, maybe.
Syracuse has been there. Used to be a non-conference opponent back in the old Eddie Fogler days, pretty consistently.
Michigan came. I'm trying to think. Michigan came
over Christmas break, right?
And there was a pretty good crowd there. I mean, look, for Colonial Life Arena, you're still talking about if you can get 13,000 in there, so that's 5,000 less than capacity. You've got a pretty good crowd. And that number might actually be less, closer to 10, just because South Carolina fans don't turn out for basketball like they will for football, and so that makes it. And the size of that arena makes it a much more different environment. Kind of, Patrick, as you were alluding to, like the environments of both Georgetown at home and South Carolina at home can be kind of similar because you just don't have a great crowd turnout.
I think there might be some of us old dudes that are more interested in that Georgetown game than other non-conference games that time of year. Just simply get to go see Patrick Ewing in person on the sidelines. And you guys mentioned he's kind of embattled there in 4 years at Georgetown and mixed bag of success and having to win the Big East tournament last year to get to that NCAA tournament. But just to see him in person and know everything that he represented back in his day as a player, both in college and in the NBA, it's something for sure that you typically don't get that time of year from a non-conference matchup with Gamecock basketball. We'll continue to discuss. Interested in your thoughts as well. 803-404-6100 is the number into the program. Great story on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line from AJ. We were talking about our camp experience, summer camp experiences from this time of year. So we'll get his Eddie Fogler basketball camp story as we continue to roll on this morning. I'd love to hear from you. Well, it's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
Is December 5th a Sunday?
Apparently, to our text. I don't know what date it is today, hardly.
Yeah, it is. It is on a Sunday. He's right. So a Sunday afternoon game. I don't know. That's not actually to the texter Patrick's point. Playing that on a Sunday because that Saturday will be the return of championship Saturday, where you've got the SEC, the ACC championship game football. Not that South Carolina is going to be there, but I think you'd actually have more people that be willing to stay home and watch the SEC championship football game and flip back and forth on television, South Carolina basketball, than they would go watch a South Carolina basketball game and miss some of the SEC championship football game.
Yeah, agreed. Sure, that's why they put it on the Sunday instead of the Saturday.
Yeah.
Patrick's point on the text line was that it's a tougher draw on Sunday.
More coffee.
Typically, that would be accurate, but not on that weekend. How's that neck doing? Any better?
Oh, really?
Brutal. So when did it start bothering you? When you woke up?
No, I could like going into last night. I could feel like a little stiffness. It wasn't a big deal.
Right.
And then when I woke up yesterday, I was stuck.
Brutal.
Have you put any ice on it?
Not yet. I mean, I took a 800 milligram ibuprofen before I went to work, and then did this little heating deal. But I'll try ice after the show, probably. I only have one more night of work this week. It's going into town, so
Yeah.
it does help that I don't have 3 more nights of lifting things.
That's
I
true.
can basically have 5 nights off now. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah.
Jen, on the text line, Patrick, the texter, just hit us up with a bit of a traffic update.
Okay.
Hilarious text in from Michael. He just needed to let us know when I was a kid, Gamecocks played in ACC.
That's right. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Neighbor over here hooked a turtle yesterday, a soft shell turtle. Thing was massive. The neighbors actually, my 2 neighbors who I love, the Wayne and Ann, the older couple, they've got names for every wildlife animal out here. They're getting the turtle up to the dock, and they're like, "Oh, it's Old Mo." Really, you named the turtle? One of y'all signing up for AOL?
Right. Is that Mo with the gimpy leg?
No, that's I forget what duck they hip and hop, or I don't know. They've got a duck that it's got a gimpy leg. Then you got the other 2 ducks that they know that they have, Heathcliff and Gertrude. I think, isn't that right?
That's
They
funny.
got one duck who's always by himself. They call him Lone Ranger.
My funny thing with goofy names is when I was a kid, got some plants, and they said, "Oh, you're supposed to talk to the plants and stuff." I mean, I'm talking like I was 8, and so I said, got these 2 plants, and I named them Matilda and Gertrude. So I remember telling Darren early on when we were dating, and I said, "Yeah, told him about the plants and thought it was funny names," and he said, "Yeah, that's my aunt's name and my grandma's name," and legit it was, like.
Matilda and Gertrude.
Camp stories. That time of year. It's June. Favorite camp memory from AJ on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Eddie Fogler Hoops Camp around 94 or so. Divided into teams. Week-long camp turned USC walk-ons and transfers where our team coaches. My team lucked into getting Nate Wilborn as our coach. And it was glorious, AJ says. By week's end, we were all well-versed in flowery language, and the finer points of college campus life, the non-PC version, AJ says. So shout out to Big Nate for that week of education and Go Cox from AJ. Good stuff.
All right, now I'll read. Go ahead. I was going to say, now I'll read Travis on the live stream, his camp story, because that's the best one I've seen.
He says he has 2 camp stories. Facebook live stream. Travis says, first, when I was 10 years old, my best friend's mom talked mine and sending us to Citadel summer camp, saying they have sports and sailing, leaving out the drill team part. I cried every day on the phone for all 3 weeks for her to come get me out of that hell camp after having some 20-year-old constantly yelling at us.
Lucky he was allowed to get a phone call at all.
Yeah. It's true. That's a good point.
Wow.
I'm looking forward to the second camp story, which I'm hoping was a better experience for Travis there, that he might still be typing up there on the Facebook Live chat. Up and rolling on the YouTube Live as well, where Troy hit us up in 1985. Georgetown, Villanova, St. John's all made the Final Four. He reminds us, pretty sure that's the last time one conference had 3 teams in that Final Four. And yeah, if you didn't live in that era with Lou Carnesecca and then Rolly Massimino and John Thompson, and how ESPN was just getting going, and that's really the only place that you could find college basketball consistently outside of your regional games, and it was something. And those players, Chris Mullen from St. John's, and everybody from Villanova on that Cinderella run, and was that Easy Ed Pinckney, and to knock off Georgetown at that point after they had won the '84 national championship, I think, with Ewing, it looked like they were just completely dominant. I mean, it reminds me, Bill, of how I watched like film or video from back in the day of Lou Alcindor when he was at UCLA, or Wilt Chamberlain, if you ever saw any like the Kansas video, I think, or Bill Russell with George Mikan, any of those big guys where they just seemed like a head, shoulders above everybody else. That's how I remember Patrick Ewing dominating, wearing his T-shirt underneath his jersey. I was always fascinated by that as a kid growing up, wondering why is he wearing a T-shirt? Nobody else does. But just swatting shots kind of left and right, and just being so dominant. I from that nostalgic perspective, I think it's cool for sure that the Gamecocks and Georgetown will be playing a little non-conference basketball the next couple of years.
Yeah, you're right. The Big East, I think there was a 30 for 30 on that, if I remember correctly, about kind of the rise of ESPN in the Big East. And you're right, you had the Jim Boeheim, John Thompson kind of era of Syracuse and Georgetown. You mentioned Lou Carnesecca there at St. John's in the red sweater. And I think there was, some kind of funny story about before St. John's went to play Georgetown or vice versa. John Thompson busting out his own type of sweater. And so you had a really high profile basketball league. And even in the 90s, as I was growing up, that was something that I kind of looked forward to on Monday nights, was Big East basketball. And, it'll be, Patrick, kind of to your point, it'll be kind of neat to get that going with those crowds and some of that this coming season. But man, I don't know if people now, and Tim, you talked a little bit about the decline of Georgetown basketball from what you remember in the 80s. I think some of it's tied to the Big East and Syracuse leaving. I don't know if you can name, 6 teams. I don't even know how many teams are in that conference. At one point, it was ridiculous, right? Notre Dame was in there. I remember watching the Big East tournaments, but I'm not 100% sure you can name all the teams. Name 6 teams in that conference anymore.
It's definitely one of the best conferences in the country. So, I mean, they still send a ton of teams to the NCAA tournament every year. I mean, Villanova is one of the powerhouses of one of the best programs of the last decade, really.
All right, let me tell
Jay Wright's got that thing running. Creighton's really good. Seton Hall's good. Butler's good.
You don't know.
Marquette.
See, there you go. But what you're saying is
That's your point, right, Bill?
What people remember. Yeah, Creighton,
There you
Butler.
go. All right.
I think Connecticut
Marquette.
just got back in. I think Connecticut go to like the AAC?
Providence and St. John's are still there, but they're just not good.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you look at it, DePaul, the Big East now has DePaul. I don't think they were in it. Maybe I'm wrong. And I think maybe they were. I can't remember. But yeah, Butler's new in there. Xavier, I don't think has been in there, for a long time. You're right, Creighton. So it's just that conference has changed so much from the conference it was even back 20 years ago in 2000, which is crazy to say. And when they were rolling, and it feels 20 years ago that Kemba Walker was leading Connecticut through the Big Ten tournament, or excuse me, through the Big East tournament up there. But that's kind of my memories of the Big East. That's just changed so dramatically.
The other Gamecock basketball news: Alonzo Frink now in the transfer portal, making it 7 transfers from last year's roster, 8 defections if you count AJ Lawson heading to professional basketball. Billy, you mentioned it at the time, towards the end of the season, it was going to be a reset for Carolina basketball, Frank Martin and company. Did you see it with this kind of number in mind, with 7 transfers and 8 guys off of the roster? I know you mentioned there are guys coming back with significant playing time, and Keyshawn Bryant, Jermaine Couisnard, and Wildens Levesque being starters off of last year's team. But even though we have seen years like this, I don't know if I saw it quite in this manner to this degree of transfers out of Frank Martin's program, and it's certainly not just his program, kind of what college basketball is these days.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said that I saw this number in terms of transfers. I thought that there would be several. I thought AJ Lawson would go pro. I guess the number I put it at was 6, kind of maybe 5 transfers, and AJ Lawson going pro. As you mentioned, we're at 8, so it's 2 more than I expected. So maybe it's not a complete shock, but I didn't think it'd go to this number. Maybe the 2 that surprised me that transferred out, just based on how you could kind of see things, was Alonzo Frank. But again, we don't know much about what's going on with him. And then Jalen McCrary. Those would probably be the 2 that I didn't see leaving that would have kept that number at 6 going into next season. But I do think it's an interesting situation having, outside of Lawson, having your 2 best players back, having an experienced big man, and now trying to find the pieces to put around them and figure out what this basketball team will look like when we get to November.
803-404-6100. If you would like to join the program, give you an update on former Gamecock baseball players in the big leagues when we come back. Also, more camp stories, like Jamie hits us up, says, I went to 4-H Marine camp thinking Semper Fi. When I got there, I realized it was Fish Marine and was very disappointed.
Oh, boy.
Second half of the show next. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game. So at my house, it's usually strawberries these days, blueberries. We had a whole kiwi yesterday. Just, we are so excited that the 14-month-old would take to the kiwi, and then it gets thrown on the floor. That's what's going on at my house these days. Fortunately, we have some professional help with Zero Res carpet and air duct cleaning. They've been out to my house a couple of times and done a great job helping us with the stains that certainly result from stuff like that. Also, we have the 6 and 8-year-old boys at my house, so you never know what's going to happen with our floors. But I can tell you from experience that when Zero Res has come out, they've gotten rid of all of that, got our house back to looking its best, I should say, gave it that fresh, clean feel, and they did it in their own unique way, in a way that made our family feel its best about having Zero Res at our house, because there are no harsh chemicals involved in the process. It's a powered water system. You can find out all the details at ZeroResColumbia.com. No leftover soapy residue either, which means our carpets have stayed cleaner longer because they didn't attract dirt in that soapy residue. And they have a great deal for you right now as well. 3 rooms of carpet cleaned, only $119 plus a free hallway when you mention me, Tim Hill. ZeroResColumbia.com, where you can book your appointment today. You can give them a call at 803-262-4020. That's Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean. Hilarious autocorrect there. Idle to idiot. Eric Poole, huh? I think that one slipped my memory, or I didn't ever get to Eric Poole.
Tim, do you feel that you've got to kind of prep your kid for camp? The 8-year-old, like, trying to explain to him, like, hey, just go have fun, relax.
He's just he's used to doing things with his brother or a cousin or someone he knows, and so he had himself. That's the only issue there. But he's that guy that you got to give him a push to get going.
Get some grapes. Enjoy some grapes. Some grapes and some strawberries. A little bit of food, and we'll get a pack of meat off, and you get a free Sunday drink. Okay? And then that'll get something on your stomach before we go. You see it? Okay. You need a bowl?
Wide receiver. Yep. So Travis, just a little bit before my time at pool. Didn't quite remember him. 82, 83, 84, and 85. Ends up with 6 touchdowns for his career and almost 1,000 yards receiving. Now, I think my younger one might be a little bit more in the same situation as Austin because he's the second child. He's a social guy. Like he's rolling to hip hop dance class tonight by himself and feeling good about it.
Really? All right.
Okay, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I like the feeling good about it.
So are you giving him some moves to start with just to kind of get him warmed up?
He gives me the move.
That's the
Right.
kind of that's a camp. I like that.
Seriously, that's fun.
Well, we got the 3 boys. Got the 4-year-old niece who had a dance recital recently, so we went to that. I figured I owe it to my wife at least to go to that, and it was only 30 minutes, which was a big score.
That's
But-
score.
She noticed how the 6-year-old especially was into it and liked the show, and he's that kind of kid, and so it's the least I could do. I never thought, I was talking to her about it yesterday, I never thought I'd have my kid in dance lessons, but I mean, I do have the 3 boys. So
I was gonna
at
say,
least we can give her.
well, think of all the football players, taking ballet and things like that. I mean, there's strength and coordination. There's no shame in that.
But it is a 2-day, like 1 hour a day thing too. It's not exactly a commitment here.
Makes it a little more palatable. Doesn't have to wear a tutu. Yeah.
Right. We'll see how far that ends up going.
How fun.
Oh, Georgetown, Brad. I get it. Am I the only one that when I see GT, I think of Georgia Tech?
Absolutely, Georgia Tech.
G-Town.
Georgetown. I think you could put Georgia Tech in there, actually, in that conversation of college basketball programs not what they used to be.
Yeah, you definitely could. I mean, the run that they had with point guards in the 80s and the 90s.
Mark Price is how I remember Georgia Tech basketball growing up.
Heading back in.
Kenny Anderson, Travis Price. Sure.
Europe.
Camp story number 2 for Travis after the Citadel debacle. Much better for Gamecock football camp. Joe Morrison camp, he says, was fortunate to have gone, staying in the dorms, playing in the bubble, meeting my Gamecock idol at the time, wide receiver Eric Poole, back in the early to mid 80s. Good for you, Travis, on that one. And good to see that. Yeah, 2 camp stories. You got to have a bad one and a good one to balance that out. Good to hear and appreciate the contributions on the Facebook live stream up and rolling there. YouTube live on Twitter as well. Talking about Gamecock basketball, adding a home and home series with Georgetown. James says USC Aiken basketball camp when I was in middle school in 2000. Had my Allen Iverson shoes and arm pad, he says. The influence on certain programs at certain points in your life. Billy, you've mentioned, you've shown us your jersey collection from the college basketball standpoint, how you were a big Michigan guy, being from Lexington, South Carolina, didn't necessarily have connections there. I think Georgetown probably could have been that team had you been about, 10 years older, maybe growing up at that point. I know some people latched onto that program with just no ties at all. And Patrick, you being from the DC area, it's a little bit different for sure. Seeing that kind of up close and personal and being 25 years old, you didn't get any of the good Georgetown years at all. You've seen them kind of be the afterthought and the Nebraska football of your generation, right? Is Miami football like that to you too? Wow, that's mind-boggling to me growing up and remembering those, especially the South Carolina matchup going down to Miami. I think it was 1987, 1988. Both teams were in the top 10, and Michael Irvin and Miami just avoid the upset from the Gamecocks. There's the brawl that broke out and the whole thing, and then the Bad Boys era of college football, and the great 30 for 30 that kind of documented that as well, and kind of how they were quarterback view. It is hard for me to imagine not experiencing that from the college football standpoint growing up. But yeah, that's what I guess that's what a generational too, right? 18 years difference between Patrick and me, Bill.
Yeah, I'm reading one other basketball note just to pass along regarding South Carolina. I was listening to y'all, but I was trying to decipher this tweet from Adam Zagoria, who covers a lot of basketball in the Northeast. AJ Lawson will have a workout today with the Boston Celtics. So good for him as we look at him. Now, they did put out the combine list, Patrick, yesterday, the NBA draft combine. Lawson was not invited. One of 60, it's listed 69 players that will go to the NBA draft combine here in a few weeks. And AJ Lawson is not on that list. However, he will have a workout today with the Boston Celtics. So good for him there. We're talking a little Gamecock basketball. I was trying to decipher the tweet that Zagoria put out because he spell check got him. It says former Gamecock wing AJ Lawson will be part of the Celtics without today among LJ Figueroa and another guy. It took me a couple of minutes to figure out what without meant, but I was going back through his tweets and I see that he's been pointing out who is working out for who. And so I think without is supposed to be workout.
Trey hit this up. Camp stories. Best camp, a 100-degree evaluation camp at Middle Tennessee State. Trey says, I hit back-to-back 54-yard field goals. Never hit 50, past 50 for the rest of my career. Worst camp at Elon, where I shanked a punt that nailed the head coach in the back. Needless to say, Elon didn't reach out. Oh, wait a second. Could this have been? Oh, it could have been. We need a year on that, Trey. It might have been new Gamecock special teams coordinator, Pete Limbo, former Elon head coach. We'll see if we can confirm that or make sure that Trey's nightmare has not returned to Columbia to haunt him here. And maybe I mean, knowing Pete Limbo and his relationship being the savior of this show one day when we were doing an extended 6-hour show, we might get another emergency interview with him if we need to, because we know he's working. That's for sure. That's what Gamecock football is doing these days with official visit and camps. And the news yesterday giving Trey Lance, or I shouldn't even say giving, right? Trey Lance has now earned a scholarship, was a former walk-on player.
Whoa. Let me stop you. If Trey Atkins is getting a scholarship, we should have really led with that story because that would be really impressive.
It's Trey Lance Atkins. A lot of times we don't refer to middle names for players. Just trying to cover up my terrible mistake.
A lot of people driving down the road just went, what, we got a quarterback now?
The walk-on receiver from Simpsonville had 5 catches last year, appeared in 10 games, now a scholarship player, and that announcement on social media yesterday and the whole thing, the always feel-good kind of videos for walk-on players earning their scholarships and teammates, excited for them as well. Shane Beamer making the announcement yesterday, and now Trey Atkins, a scholarship wide receiver for Gamecock football. Good news for him, and a feel-good moment for the program that is ultra busy, like I mentioned, with official visits and recruiting and camps themselves right now, right in the middle of it in a June like they've never seen. Major League Baseball update for former Gamecocks last night. Jordan Montgomery on the hill for the New York Yankees. Not his best outing for sure. Ends up going 5 1/3. The Yankees did end up beating the Toronto Blue Jays 6-5. Montgomery giving up all 5 of those runs. So the bullpen coming through for Montgomery in that one. And Christian Walker, a couple hits last night for the Arizona Diamondbacks, going 2 out of 3. Looking at the season statistics for Jordan Montgomery now, he's up to 70 innings pitched right now in 2021. And I would say having an okay year, but just the fact that he started 13 games right now and kind of solidified himself in the rotation is good news for the Sumter native, former Gamecock, for sure. We'll continue to keep you updated on Gamecocks in the big leagues. And Whit Merrifield continues to lead the way, I think, in hits for the Kansas City Royals and continues to have a really good year. say Jackie Bradley Jr. with his first year of the Milwaukee Brewers, kind of a so-so start with that new organization and switching leagues and the whole deal. His former team, the Boston Red Sox, a 10-8 winner last night against the Braves. So that breaking of the 4-game losing streak, not getting on the roll for Atlanta, tough loss in that slugfest last night to one of the best teams in baseball is what the Red Sox are now at 41-27. The Braves dropped to 30-34. Would love to hear some more of your camp stories, maybe the best and the worst as we roll on this morning. Bill, anything pop in your mind as it pertains to that?
Nothing in particular. I went to a lot of camps around here. I mean, I've got some of my, I think my career highlights are all at camp stories. One particularly good week at South Carolina basketball camp where I hit 2-game winners. Might have gone over the top because, once I tend to be a little overly dramatic, and after I hit the first game winner, I might have done a throat slash, and the second one might have led to a Mateen Cleaves dagger in the heart gesture to the other team.
Sounded like you need to be in drama camp, maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So
I think he could lead the drama camp.
A little bit too excited to actually get on the court and play, as opposed to the usual bench sitting that I would do. So no,
at least they didn't kick you out of that one. John just hit us up on the YouTube live stream. I got kicked out of church camp, he says, for putting shampoo onto a fellow who tried putting my hand in warm water. So I wet the bed. Oh,
yeah.
It's always the retaliation that gets punished.
Yeah.
At sports and at church camp.
Used to always happen to one of my sisters.
803-404-6100. I think Trey just figured out that would have been Pete Limbo for sure because it happened in 2008 or 2009. So now he knows the Elon head coach that he punted into his back and did not impress back in the day is running special teams for his guys. 803-404-6100 if you'd like to join. It's the early game here on 175.
And new head football coach, Shane Beamer.
I'm a process-driven person, and we're going to get started day one advancing.
Making sure you stay in touch or keep track of what's going on with your mortgage statement. Have you looked at it lately, or did you just pay the bill? You need to look at it. You need to make sure you know what exactly you're paying for. Maybe see how much equity you have in your home, and then contact the Mortgage Guru team. Jacob Crowder, Brian Kovar, First Palmetto Bank. You can do that this morning, 803-719-1005. I was talking to both of them just about a week ago. They were telling me a story about how they helped a buddy of theirs that they've known for a while. He didn't think he'd be able to refinance, thought his credit score was too low. They did a little bit of work for him, helped him not only refinance his house, but because he had equity, he was able to then turn around, get some money back and pay off some credit card bills and end up in a better financial situation. You might be able to do just that. Give Jacob Crowder a call today, 803-719-1005. You can email him, the letter J, Crowder, CROWDER at firstpalmetto.com. Again, see what the Mortgage Guru team, Jacob Crowder, Brian Kovar with First Palmetto Bank can do for you. Check out that mortgage statement today and then give him a call, 803-719-1005. He's the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank.
Going, I should say, on I-20.
Tim, if we can switch up the spots in the next hour, I'll do the first one. That way, when we break around 8:30ish or whatever, I'll grab Austin and get out of here.
Good with it. Patrick, you've been on mute for a little while there. One of the reasons why I didn't ask you a question there.
Curbside or next day delivery for online orders on over 160,000.
Putting Nair into the shampoo. Wow.
John, Nair into the shampoo is brutal. That is quite the plot. Yeah, I didn't figure it was Nairobi.
It's like, was it a missionary church camp in Nairobi? That's what I was thinking.
Then it all would come together. Most cutthroat missionary trip ever.
Wow,
Not
that
converting many
is-
people that way.
Boy,
wouldn't want to
trip.
get that in your eyes.
Oh, Pete Limbo. Yeah, you can't go around kicking a football into a coach's back and expect to get a scholarship offer or preferred walk on.
I'll do it.
Having to watch TV without volume, or I just scroll through YouTube and find different things to watch. My new thing has become this YouTube channel, Pro Walk Tours, and I just watch like 1.5 to 2 hour walking tours of certain places. Today, I've been watching a walking tour of the pyramids of Giza, and it's just an hour and 49 minutes of this person just going around filming the entire grounds of the pyramids of Giza with this beautiful 4K camera. Get the whole picture of it.
Hmm.
Yesterday I was in Paris for 2 hours.
You don't
Yesterday
learn-
you were
So you
You were
don't
in
learn
tour?
anything. You just are taking in the visual.
No, you actually do because there's closed captions.
Oh, okay.
These ones are actually set with closed captions, so they'll give you little tidbits. So every once in a while I'll look over and I'll learn something. I didn't even know you could go into the pyramids, but you can. You can pay extra and you can go inside of them.
Didn't know that.
I know what I'm going to retweet this, and I know what Pedro Martinez is trying to say here.
Rubbing his balls.
Yeah. Have you listened to the full clip?
No, but I saw it was something like nobody's gonna tell me what I rub on my balls or something like that.
He says,
Amazing.
he's talking. You got to listen to the whole thing. He says, and if you did not rub my balls correctly, I mean, his point is valid as to what he's going for. It's just one of those things where, as he's trying to explain it on the MLB Network, and you take that one clip, it's
Yeah.
Which those darn journalists will.
Trey, that's actually exactly what I'm doing. I love the movie Jumper. I'm really just daydreaming about if I win the Powerball, every place I'm gonna go.
And back in. Guys are up.
Is it the summer camp stories that has you dreaming about where you would go if you won the lottery, Patrick? Does that have anything? You just
No, it's the Airbnb contest where they let you live in Airbnbs for a year. And now I got the travel bug. I just don't have any money. So this is the best I can do is watching 4K walking tour videos during the show while I sit in my house.
it's one way to.
Closest I'll ever get to the pyramids.
I have
No,
the
get
travel
out of
bug,
here.
but I don't have any money.
I'm sure there's probably a website out there that can show you the way to fulfill those travel dreams with your budget.
Isn't that $40 a day you can travel?
Sounds right, Patrick. But you got to remember, he is a little high maintenance and doesn't like to be outdoors.
I'm also like 6 figures in the hole from college. So
I feel like
we're a long ways away from having $40 a day.
if we can get Patrick, we can all chip in. The next thing is one of those plastic pools that you used to have as a kid growing up. Put some water in it, put his feet in there, and watch some kind of travel channel at the beach, and he'll feel like he's at the beach.
Perfect.
It's one way to do it. These camp stories are making me feel, giving me the summer feeling today. Anonymous texter just says, one time we told a guy at soccer camp that no one particularly liked to use icy hot for the chafing
Uh-oh.
in a certain area.
Oh, no.
The guy didn't know. Poor guy. Hour 3 coming up.
This is Todd Ellison. You're listening to the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5.
All right, I'm going to go change for a minute. Get ready myself.
So Bill is in for the 8 o'clock hour?
The beginning part. So we're just going to switch the lives there.
Jen, I just remembered I need to go change here in a minute, but do you have a second to cut a sleep number spot real quick if we hop off?
Yeah.
All right.
I don't think I'm ever going to see the pyramids.
Why not?
I think it's relatively low on my list of travel priorities.
Okay, let's get the list going. What's number one?
I mean, pretty much anything in Europe. I would be happy if I was able to go anywhere in Italy or Paris or anything like that. Germany. Those are all pretty much a tie. I'd love to go to Tokyo. Tokyo seems awesome. That's very high on my list of places I want to go.
I had a buddy that went, and he went at the same time. He went Japan and then China, I think, and he said he'd love Japan, would not recommend China.
Yeah, China, I just would be a little nervous about.
Trey says, put it on the whiteboard, man. Let's go. Get it going.
Go. Well, yesterday we went through my whole 12 months of where I'm going to stay. I've been to London. London's the only international city I've been to.
And that's Paris for me.
You've been to Paris?
Yeah.
Oh, Paris is super high on the list. What were you doing there? Just vacation?
I had a friend in college who was living or doing a semester over there, so I got to go and give him a break. It's good times.
That's what I was looking at.
But that's why I would want to go to London next, just because of the language barrier.
Yeah.
That was brutal. My expertise or fluency in French was brutal.
I would live in London in a heartbeat.
Yeah, that would be cool. I got Australia pretty high on my list too. Another language reason, right?
Yeah.
They understand me over there to some degree.
Some of these cities that I was going to tell where the tourist areas are, in Paris, where everything has it's all English language, like. And then there was the same thing in Italy where it was like it just said souvenirs and coffee and things like that. So you could tell like this is where they get all the tourists.
Okay,
all
so
of my friends studied in
how about
Barcelona.
your top 5? You got top 5 cities anywhere in the world. Where you go? In order. So I'm doing that right now. Got to be international. Your top 5. All right, I got my top 5 here. Pretty pleased with my list. Mogadishu. What is that? Who is the famous Mogadishu guy? That was who's the dude with the mustache? Geraldo Rivera. Mogadishu. I think they were like a Saturday Night Live skit or something with him. If we have the same 5, I'm going to be very disappointed, Patrick. Oh, on your number 3. So we have the same number 1, and then we basically just switched our number 2. I got London, you got Paris. Athens at 3. Did you stop? Are you done there, or just I can't see the rest?
Oh no.
You knocked out your list. I stole your Tokyo for my number 4. Oh wow, we have nearly the same list, but I went. So you've got all European cities except for number 4.
Yeah.
So I branched out with my number 5 on a different continent. You want to guess?
What, Sydney?
Oh yeah, I did that for number 3 actually. So I've got 5 cities, but 4 continents. Yeah, 4 continents.
I would say maybe South Africa, maybe Rio.
Rio is what I put.
I was watching some carnival videos the other day. Too. I would like to go to that. There's certain things, certain events that would be incredibly high up there.
Yeah,
I mean,
hope.
I could,
I thought about putting Ireland on mine, Dublin on there. What is the Shire, Trey? Help me out there. Come on, man.
from Lord of the Rings. It's where the hobbits live.
Good. I'm glad I didn't know.
Like Oktoberfest would be probably number one if it was just a particular event and I could go at one exact time. There's
Right.
not much I wouldn't do more than go to Oktoberfest.
My buddy's been a couple of times. Yeah, Trey, but you can say that for almost anywhere, right? I mean, that's why I didn't put South Africa on there, but you can put it for almost anywhere, right? I mean,
I look at
DC or New York, sure people internationally say that about those cities too.
well, Moscow and St. Petersburg, Russia.
Yeah.
I would love those. Their architecture is nuts, and I would love to see that. But it cannot be safe to go there.
I got Vancouver pretty high up on the list too. Never been there.
Yeah, and you can have like a Seattle. You can have a Seattle Vancouver weekend. Which is
Yeah, I've done the Seattle before, so I probably should put Montreal or Toronto before.
Yeah. I have a cousin that lives in Seattle that said, yeah, you can literally take like a half-hour ferry ride into Vancouver.
So Jen, we did top 5 cities in the world that you would visit if you could. Edinburgh, yeah, I put that up on the list too. I think they have the comedy festival there. That would be up on my event list.
Venice.
Good one. Yeah, we both picked Rome there as number 1. Bill, you want to do your top 5 cities in the world you would go to?
Yeah, I was listening. Are we doing this back there?
Yeah.
In terms of events, it would be Oktoberfest, Carnival, Running of the Bulls. I don't know what else is up there. St. Pat's in Dublin.
Top 5 cities?
Yeah. Blank check, 5 places you could go.
There was no end in sight. Jen, please get this song just on a loop, and we'll play it at like 10 and 20 and 30 minutes after the hour. How about that? In the show, huh? I sat differently today, so it's not
Trey, this is rude.
now here's
Pretty funny though.
Takes a village to raise Bill. On 107.5, the game.
You're up.
Somehow with these summer camp stories, we've gotten into summer vacations maybe, or just, I guess this is from the B&B contest that Patrick has made Bill and I aware of. I guess, what is it, Airbnb is doing this contest? Is that right, Patrick?
Yep.
Where
Yep.
someone will get free stays, free monthly stays for a year anywhere in the world. Is that the deal?
Yep, 12 months, 12 places. They want to encourage the month-long stays.
So 12 to me is a little overwhelming, right? So we're going with a list of 5. Also, if you wrote 12 things on your whiteboard that you have right behind you on the live video stream up and rolling, Facebook, YouTube Live, and Twitter, it's just the penmanship would be too difficult. Yeah, we couldn't read it, the font and the whole thing. So you got 5 names up there of cities in the world that you would go to, your top 5 destinations. We have several of them the same. So number 1 is the same. I've got your number 4 on my list. Your number 2 and my number 2 are very similar, but you are very Europe heavy there. And I wanted to spread out on the continents because just to mark those off the list. Why'd you go Europe centric?
That's just where, I mean, I just very much like European history, and I think it's also very easy to travel within Europe. So, I mean, they're kind of interchangeable, a lot of these cities. And
you're watching the soccer right now, right? That Euro tournament?
Euros, yeah.
Probably has something to do
So, I
with
mean,
it.
my first choice was Rome, but it's like I would want to, there's so many places. There's a countless number of cities in Italy that I would want to go see. I'd love to go to Venice, love to go to Florence, Sorrento, like the whole Amalfi Coast, like any of that would be
Exactly.
sweet. I would love any of that. So
Yeah,
it's hard
that
to
was my
pick
number one
individual
choice.
cities.
Yeah, but if you got to do just cities, that was my number one choice at the top of the list. Rome as well. Bill, what's your number one? What's your number one draft pick here?
You know what Patrick just said is exactly the problem I'm running into is and Jen said Venice, you said Rome, Naples would be really neat. I guess I'd go Rome. It'd be one of those in Italy. I almost feel like all 5 of those major places in Italy is what I would go with, and so I probably would side with you because you'd get the food, you get the. See, I was looking at it from almost a food standpoint to begin with, and then you factor in the historical aspect of what you could visit, because I've also got Athens, Greece on my list right now.
Yeah, that's Patrick's number 3 as well. It's a good one for sure. Patrick, you want to complete your list for everyone, and we'll get into some camp stories that we've done this morning already.
Rome, Paris, Athens, and then Tokyo and Amsterdam round out my top 5. It's so hard to keep like Barcelona off the list or keep Dublin off the list, or some of these other European cities that I just want to see so bad. But I have to pick 5. That's what I'm going with.
Pretty good list of 5, wouldn't you agree, Bill?
Yeah, I'm with Patrick on that. It's hard to keep certain places off of your list. I mean, like Sydney, Australia. I don't know. I'm trying to think why I would put Sydney ahead of a few places, but that's a place that I've kind of always wanted to go and travel to.
Well, it's number 3 on my list, and number 1, not a language barrier. Number 2, good weather, and it's another continent. Like to go check it out. That's why it's number 3. I got Rome, London, Sydney, Tokyo, and Rio de Janeiro, just to try to spread it out amongst the continents and go to a place that seems pretty cool to me. All right, so you got your list of 5 yet, Bill, or are you still narrowing it down?
I'm still kind of narrowing it down here. I was just kind of scrolling through to see what I might have been. I don't know. There's so many things. Like I'll give you an example. I don't know if I would want to go to Berlin. I think it would be probably Berlin is where you'd probably get the best Oktoberfest. But I don't know if I'd want to go the other 11 months of the year.
Right.
Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, that's
kind of like
a different type of conversation, right? Patrick's talking about the events he would like to go visit worldwide, and then it's a bit of a different conversation.
Like kind of like Dublin. Somebody said Dublin. I've got them on the list, but do I really want to go to Dublin outside of St. Patrick's Day, or or around that time of year? So there's I get very analytical when it comes to these kind of questions and what I'm trying to accomplish.
Dave's joining in with a quick list: Sydney, Edinburgh, Zurich, Naples, and Paris. Strong list there. Jen, what about you? Have you completed your list of 5?
Yeah, and Zurich actually is on there. I had Venice, Amsterdam, Dubai, maybe like Sydney or something, and Zurich. So
nice. Dubai, a good one. If you're gonna spread it out and get some variety in there. Mm-hmm. I just did want to do all the European cities. Something to think about. Troy says no international for me. So he goes 5 American cities: Vegas, and New Orleans.
Well, when you go to Vegas, you can go to New York, you can go to
Paris.
Venice,
They have
Paris, yes.
Yeah, you can do all those in the Vegas way for sure.
And then go to Epcot and you can tour the world. So really, yeah.
Are there a lot of people that genuinely have no interest in traveling abroad?
Well,
yeah, sure. Especially right now.
I think for multiple reasons, and I'm not being funny. I think for multiple reasons, yes. I think I've run into people who are terrified to go outside of the country or outside.
Well, also,
I don't mean just right now. I just mean in general. Like they don't have any sort of desire to leave this country.
Well, Chad hit us up and said, "I don't leave America," and then you have the flag as well on the Twitter live stream. To me, I don't know how much of that is like theoretical or just realistic, right? When it comes to everything involved with the prices and the whole deal, or just you have that mindset and that's what you're going to stick with. And well, you might have that mindset because you're in the back of your head, you're doing the math and the whole thing's not going to work out to begin with. That's kind of where I'm at.
Well, and if I know there are places that aren't necessarily supportive of us, or that we're giving money to, anyway, I can get political. There are places I will not go for certain reasons like that internationally, but but I'm not afraid to go international.
Oh, speaking of that, there's definitely a place. Bill, you said you did go to a Clemson baseball camp back in the day. I'm sure there are plenty of Gamecock fans out there that did not attend any Clemson camps just because for those kind of reasons, right?
Interesting.
Party lines. Jeff hits us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, says, I remember attending Danny Ford's very first football as a rising 8th grader in 1979 and being awarded the defensive back trophy from legendary defensive coordinator. That's pretty cool. You got to admit that. Just dropping those names. Well done, Jeff. But Bill, your Clemson camp experience from the Gamecock growing up in Lexington and being a Gamecock family, how was that?
It was fun. It was fun. Bought a Clemson hat. Shane Monahan, I don't know, man. Shane Monahan at the time, they had Monahan and Chris Benson was the pitcher there, the big time pitcher, ended up being drafted by the Pirates. And that was, I don't know, mid 90s, I guess. That was when I was still in my baseball playing heyday, maybe a little bit early, maybe 94, 95, somewhere there. And Shane Monahan was the center fielder, I believe, and was kind of a guy that I really liked playing baseball. Thought he was pretty cool and was up there as a counselor. And then Chris Benson, I think at that time he was not a counselor. I think he was around, but I think he was about to be drafted by the Pirates. And it was a neat camp. It was down there. Got to, again, we're talking 25, 26 years ago now, but play a game in Doug Kingsmore Stadium, and that was, I think, Tim, to be honest, maybe one of the reasons that stands out also is if anybody will think back, that was like the first overnight away camp I ever went to. Completely being, I think my dad came up like a day or two and watched and hung out, but it was like the first time that you actually were away from home, kind of on your own, like no parental control. They're 2.5 hours away. There's nothing they can do. And that was kind of a neat thing. Like, I think the Coke vending machine broke one night, or it was broken. I'm not sure what happened, but like the door was open. And so it just, you just raided the Coke machine, and you had we had like 20 Coca-Colas in our little dorm room. It just, there was nobody to stop you from, drinking seven Coca-Colas in a row. Just
what a camp miracle that was. I was just telling my 8 and 6-year-olds, we were talking about camps, and they're doing a few this summer, or a few limited ones, no overnight ones or anything yet, but how my first camp, I remember that was the big deal. Snack time in the vending machine, getting a grape soda. For some reason, that just sticks with me in my head. It's crazy how those things stick with you for as long as they do. Go ahead, Jen.
I was going to say real quick, the one thing that I remember is everybody was so excited because there was going to be like an ice cream night, and it had been hot there and whatever. And so it was like an ice cream Sunday night, but it was bitter chocolate. It was not like something sweet. So everybody's like pouring it on and stuff and going, and it was like somebody was not cool at that camp for doing that.
Was that journalism camp?
No, that was actually church camp. So we couldn't cuss or anything to show our frustration, but I guess we prayed a lot.
That sounds like one of our favorite callers, our favorite 86-year-old caller who's been waiting very patiently. You mentioned Chris Benson, the number one pick in 1996 back in the day. Gamecock Larry wanting to talk a little College World Series, former boot camp drill instructor, plenty of different camp experiences, I'm guessing. Gamecock Larry, did you ever make it to summer camp in your day?
Oh, no. I had to work in the field till I got big enough to join the Army, and my camp was basic training, Fort Jackson, 1952, 16 weeks to H&H. I'll tell you what, that was the only camp I went to. But I'm not gonna call for a while because I'm gonna be on the shelf. But I'm gonna tell you. Now let me tell you a few things before I leave.
Okay.
5 teams in the World Series. We played them this year, even though we didn't win many of the games. So the baseball team's going to be okay. I got to put out a shout-out to my cardiologist, Dr. Jacobs. They gave me the final clearance on everything yesterday. I'm going to be ready for tailgating with my riding motor scooter if the good Lord's willing. Number 3, I want Dr. Jacobs, Nurse Judy, Nurse Crispy, Dr. Bacon, and all my doctors out there. I appreciate everything you've done. Everything's going to be okay. But now I'm going to be listening, and so if I hear something that I don't like, old Gamecock Larry going to have to call. And as far as you Legion of Doom, Brood Hog, Bulldog Burt, Tennessee Mike, and old Tennessee Mike, I'm going to talk about you. I can't stand the need and can't stand the name of Tennessee. Can't stand the name of Vanderbilt. Can't stand the name of North Carolina State. So therefore, I'm going to have to pull for Mississippi State in the College World Series. And if they get knocked out, I ain't going to pull for nobody. That's about all we got to say. Yes, sir.
What about Arizona?
Well, that was the team I was thinking about. Arizona. I was going to pull for Arizona. But if Mississippi State gets knocked out, you know who's going to win. If Mississippi State gets knocked out, it is either going to be Texas, Vanderbilt, or Tennessee. That's it. One of those three teams is going to win the College World Series. Texas, Vanderbilt, or Tennessee. And the way it looks, I hate to say it because I don't like it, but Tennessee looks like Vanderbilt will rock and Lionel. But after that, they're going to be hurting. So I don't know. I ain't going to, but I'll pull for Mississippi State as long as they in. If they get knocked out, I'm pulling for Arizona. Go Arizona. What in the world are they called? Arizona. I can't remember. I didn't write everything down. And that's called. That all y'all know. Old Gamecock Larry go take a break, but if he's gonna be listening, if he has something he don't like, he's gonna definitely. I'll call the hotline if I have to. Go Gamecocks. Nice talking to you.
Gamecock Larry, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk to you tomorrow, Larry.
He's rolling in third person.
803-404-6100, the number into the show. Bunch of you weighing in now with your camp/cities in the world lists. Love it. Anonymous texter, one time at Gamecock baseball camp, the vending machine ran out of every drink except Tab. I'm still traumatized. Solid. That'll get you every time. Monty with his list. Pretty impressive international list. Manila, Delhi, Normandy, France, Beijing, and Moscow. That is impressive. Much different than Cocky Codger, who just goes with Fort Mott, South Carolina, Winslow, Arizona, the Redneck Riviera, Brigadoon, and Bloom County. Hot sauce. Go ahead, Jen.
I was just going to say, and I think it'd be interesting. My dad fought in World War II, so he was in like Lady and areas like that. I think it'd be interesting to do that kind of a tour too, just kind of see where they fought and all that kind of stuff, kind of going back to the historical perspective that Patrick was talking about.
For sure. Cullen, going back to his personal history with camp, says, my friend Marty went to Joe Morrison's football camp. He's one of the biggest haters I know. That is how South Carolina works, right? Sometimes just end up at the camp across the way. Hot Sauce Ross went to Athens Y Camp in Tallulah Falls, Georgia. They told us there was an ice cream factory at the top of the mountain. They'd had damage from a storm. The counselors told us we're going to hike to the factory. And if we brought rocks to help fix the wall, they'd give us ice cream equal to the amount of rocks we brought. Kids were loading up pillowcases with rocks. We hiked all the way up a mountain. When we got to the top, they told us there was no ice cream factory, but that we could see South Carolina, Tennessee, and North Carolina from that point. Whew, that's a dirty trick, man.
I wouldn't want to be at the top of a mountain with a bunch of angry kids, I can tell you.
Dirty, dirty trick. 803-404-6100 if you'd like to hit us up with your camp stories. Again, best and worst. Feel free to go either direction. It might say more about the scarring memories or the joyful life you've lived, one or the other. Or maybe you can balance it out with one of each. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
Your 24/7 sports station.
Pretty good. Pretty.
expecting, don't wait any longer. Call AAA Heating and Air today. They are more than happy to come. Make sure your family is happy by getting that air conditioner working. And obviously during the winter, you want the heat to be working as well. That's why AAA Heating and Air is exactly who I use if there's an issue here at the Gunner household. 803-677-1500. If there is an issue, if something has gone completely wrong, guess what? AAA Heating and Air will offer you a $1,500 rebate to buy back your old unit, take it away, and then work with you. No money down, 0% financing on a brand new unit, if that's what it takes. Also, a 15-year parts and labor warranty. AAA Heating and Air, Roy and Dana Finley, you've heard me talk about them. They treat me like family, not just because I do a sports talk radio show, but because they genuinely care about my family, and they're going to do the same for you. 803-677-1500. Give AAA Heating and Air a call today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. Guys, if it's okay with you, I'm going to get out of here.
Peace out, man. Good luck.
Make the trip to River Bluff. We'll update the camp situation tomorrow.
All right. You got a, yeah, we'll do the NASCAR thing tomorrow. I was thinking we had to do that today, but that's tomorrow. My bad. Okay. Sounds good, man. See ya.
All right. Y'all take care. See you in the morning.
Patrick, you're still on mute. No, you're good. I got you. What you got going down there?
Just this absolute tangled mess.
Yeah, mine's the same way, man.
Can you see this? It's like a million.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to.
You might just want to unplug it and like hang the actual headphones up somewhere just to let gravity kind of help work that out. When you're done with
it. Yeah.
York, we won't do this one on the air. This is more the PG-13 version, I believe, of the show. Did you read that one?
Oh my gosh.
Memorable. I got to hear some Demetrius. I got to hear some names, man. Who'd you see? Did you see anybody at Florida State or NC State? Surely you had to see some NC State quarterbacks who end up making it to the NFL. Yes, that's correct, Mark. That is the headphones cord. That's all, Tank. Morning, Chris. Morning, Mark. Good morning, Hope. Sorry, just cleaning up some other stuff.
I have so many lottery tickets piled up over here. I need to make sure I don't throw out a winner when I go today. I got a $20 winner right here.
I've never bought a lottery ticket in my life.
Impressive.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I mean, I set a budget. Like, I have cash in my wallet, and I'm not going to take out cash like every week, but I have like $20 that I've been playing like $6 or $7 per day. But this is a $20 winner right here, so this is going to buy me another week of playing.
House money.
But I've been switched. For the past, I was going on a run of playing Powerball and Mega Millions because I wanted the big winner. But I've switched to scratch offs recently because I'm just trying to win like
Incremental.
I can just have a couple $1,000. That would be great. That would take care of the bills for a couple months.
There you go.
I do my research too. I research how many winners are left on each card every day.
Gotta be
There's
smart.
There's seven $9,000 winners left of this ticket. Haven't gotten it yet.
Where are they? So we just have the one caller on the line.
Gotcha. What's his name again?
Grant.
Grant? Got
Grant.
it.
Yep.
Thanks for the heads up where he wants to go. Attaboy, Craig. Glad that didn't think there was anybody else out there.
Even when you see that the jackpots get up to like $500 million, you're still like, nah, no thanks.
Yeah. In my mind, that means the odds are just that much more difficult.
They're exactly the same.
Doesn't it matter how many tickets are bought?
No, I mean, the odds of you winning are always going to be the same because your numbers need
the numbers that hit.
Yeah. Your odds of winning the jackpot by yourself go down because you're more likely to share it with somebody. Usually when they get into the 900 million to $1 billion range, there end up being multiple winners because just millions upon millions of people play each game.
It's a lot of taxes to pay.
A lot of taxes to pay.
You guys are up.
Are we just siding with Gamecock Larry? Who is our team in the College World Series? Mark's asking on the YouTube live stream.
Stanford.
A little. Oh, why are you going to Stanford?
Smart kids, yeah.
But you probably don't remember either. I think it's the first time since maybe 2009 or something like that Stanford's back in the College World Series. I'm guessing you don't know Stanford as a team with a bunch of baseball success, right?
I do not. I mean, they're kind of just an awesome athletic program, so it doesn't surprise me one bit that they're good at anything. They seem to always be good at the lower tier sports. Like maybe not an incredible basketball program, but I know they're really good at soccer. They're, I guess, good at baseball. They have the largest athletic department in the country as well. So,
right. I guess very publicly cut some sports recently. Some of the Olympic ones like fencing and sailing, I think they had on their list. They won the Directors' Cup for a tremendous amount of years in a row, I think. But as far as the big time sports, the money generating sports, basketball, they haven't even been very good since the old Mad Dog days. Mark Madsen and Mike Montgomery was coaching 15 years ago, probably more than that at this point. Haven't been tremendously successful there. Obviously had Christian McCaffrey a few years ago and saw some success at Stanford. They've been okay. Andrew Luck out kind of taking them to maybe the highest points that I can remember, at least in my lifetime. But to me, they were always really, really good in baseball. I think matched up with the Gamecocks maybe a couple of times in that first 3-year run, 02, 03, and 04. I remember specifically that 03 year, they matched up, I believe, in the first game, and Stanford got the best of Carolina. Or it might have been the second game where Carolina ended up hanging on. Whatever it is, Stanford's been a really good baseball program for a long time, and kind of in 2001, the Super Regional kept Carolina from going to that College World Series for the first time in the Ray Tanner era, and they had to wait until the next year. But as Gamecock Larry was talking about it, he's going to Mississippi State. You guys feel free to go wherever you want. So maybe if you're can't beat them, join them kind of thing, you go one of the 5 teams that South Carolina played this year. Patrick, you want to guess the combined record? So 14 individual games. You want to guess how many games Carolina won out of those 14 games against the 5 opponents combined? Just did this one off the top of my head there, the math. Out of 14 games, how many times did Carolina beat teams, the 5 teams they played that are now in the College World Series?
I want to say 4.
Nailed it. They beat everybody once except for Texas.
Texas, right? Yeah.
1-1 against Virginia in the regional. There, won the first one and then lost the last one. Then 1-2 against the other 3 teams: Mississippi State, Tennessee, and Vandy, and didn't scratch a win in Texas. It kind of sums up the season, I think, in a lot of ways. That able to beat those teams mostly, but not able to win the series against those teams, or against Virginia, not able to win the regional, win when it mattered the most in that last game for sure. So something to keep in mind as the College World Series rolls on. My question to you, Patrick, what will you be more invested in as not necessarily a college baseball guy, not necessarily an NBA guy? The NBA playoffs moving forward, the College World Series moving forward. I guess I could throw the U.S. Open in there as well for this weekend in particular.
The NBA probably first amongst those. Once it gets to the conference finals, I'll try and watch as much as possible. The U.S. Open is interesting, though, because depending on who's in the front, that could definitely dictate how closely I tune in or follow that. We'll also be out of town, which doesn't help, but at least on Sunday I'll be back home. And depending on who's in the lead there, I don't know who would be the most fascinating. I guess Phil's the easy answer if he's leading the pack and
no doubt
somehow could miraculously do the back-to-back. That's probably the most intriguing storyline.
Another quick trivia question for you. Do you want to guess how many times Phil Mickelson has finished runner-up at the U.S. Open?
Oh, geez. Also 4?
6.
Wow.
Crazy number.
And he has, 6 total majors? Is that what the number is?
I don't think he's won that many. I was thinking, maybe it is. I'll go back and look that one up after that PGA Championship win. I think that might be right. I was thinking it wasn't even that many, actually, just showing how ridiculous.
Yeah, he's got 3 Masters, 2 PGAs, and 1 Open.
1 British Open, right?
1 British Open, yeah.
And then 6-time runner-up at the U.S. Open. Yeah, I would be shocked if he's in contention at all. That just seems to be how golf works, right? That you can have one tremendous major run, and then the odds of you doing it again, especially in the same year, and then throw in that Phil's also 51 years old now, going to be but he does have the home course advantage kind of deal here at Torrey Pines.
That's what I was just going to say. I've heard people say, obviously he grew up in that area, but I've also heard that I guess they massively redid that course some years ago, and apparently he's not done well at all at Torrey Pines ever since they redid the course. I don't know how drastic of the changes it was, or if it's just a typical changing a couple things here or there, but apparently he just hasn't shot well ever since they changed the course.
Well, also changing the course to some degree is one thing, right? And then playing a U.S. Open on that course is a completely different animal, where they just let the rough grow up and swallow golf balls and punish golfers. And Phil Mickelson, while finishing runner-up 6 times, is amazing at the U.S. Open. To me, he's never been necessarily a U.S. Open kind of guy because he's a big risk-reward guy, as opposed to being able to stay away from trouble and being more of a safe kind of player.
So the U.S. Open just punishes you more?
Typically, you're going to have bigger numbers, and the score is going to be just right around even or just a few under. And guys that can stay away from those massive blow-up holes and just be that consistent player will have a lot better success. But obviously, Phil Mickelson's had a ton of success at U.S. Opens in his career, just not quite enough. And some famous kind of meltdowns when he's been in the lead and not being able to seal the deal. I'd love to see that happen, man. That would be absolutely incredible. I would put the odds of it as being very low. So I'm with you. It will depend on who's at the top of the leaderboard with that U.S. Open. If I can latch on to any of those guys and pull for them moving forward, I'm hoping that's what happens this weekend. But Kevin Durant, what he did last night has made me more interested in the NBA playoffs. I think we all love greatness to a certain degree and like to latch onto it and feel a part of it. 49 points, 17 assists, or 17 rebounds and 10 assists last night, 49, 17, and 10. Arguably the best performance in NBA history from a statistical standpoint. There is no argument. It was the best. Played every single minute last night in the Nets' 6-point win over the Bucks in a critical Game 5, where now the Nets lead 3-2. But I just mentioned, what was it, last week? I think it was the Nets-Bucks in that low-scoring 86-83 game. That it was 2-0, I think, Nets at that point. The Bucks ended up pulling that one out and kind of pulling that one out and kind of getting back in the series. That's the first NBA game, period, that I've really paid much attention to or invested any kind of time in all year long, just because a bunch of these playoff games have been by a wide margin and not close. And there is something to Bill's theory, Patrick, about crowds not being in there that make me less interested in games that I'm watching. It's harder for me to latch onto, and then my NBA philosophy of guys not necessarily playing at 100% optimum intensity level during the regular season. That also goes into my NBA watching at this time of year.
Yeah, but the last night honestly does change my motivation to watch this series at least a little bit more, because it is interesting. Last week, the Nets were up 2-0. Looked like they were just going to cruise to the conference finals. And then James Harden went down, and the Bucks won 2 games in a row. Kyrie was down. And it's just very interesting. The narrative of this last couple of days was the money, the Vegas money had shifted. The Bucks had become favored to win the series. And the narrative around Kevin Durant was like, hey, you're incredible. You're one of the top 3 players in the world, but he needs he needs a wingman basically, or he needs a Robin more than anyone else, because he's not able to facilitate, and he relies more on Kyrie and Harden drawing guys and feeding to Durant, because he's just more of a natural scorer than he is an all-around player and facilitator. And to follow that up last night with 49, 10 assists and 17 rebounds is just ridiculous, because Harden was out there, but he was not himself. He was very ineffective and was clearly hobbled. So, I mean, Durant I don't know that we've seen Durant ever put the team on his back like that. Obviously, you've never really seen any games like that, but that was uncharacteristic of him. He's normally just super efficient and scores at will, but doesn't take over games to an insane level like that. I mean, props to him. It was ridiculous.
Gamecock basketball news, the latest, Alonzo Frink, the latest guy, number 7 from last year's team to hop in the transfer portal from the Gamecock basketball perspective. And the big man didn't get to play very much last year. But the way that Frank Martin talked about his absence made me think that Frank would be back this year for Gamecock basketball. We haven't gotten an explanation as to why he's now transferring out of the program. It is kind of representative of where the Gamecock basketball program is in flux for sure, with a bunch of exits and a bunch of new people coming in. It's not unique in college basketball. It's not rare. It's not just a Frank Martin thing. What do you make of Alonzo Frink leaving the Gamecock basketball program?
It's just going to be another chapter in whenever it is. The book is written about this 2020 COVID season for South Carolina, and there's just clearly not a lot of good mojo going off that team last year. We talked about it. There didn't seem to be a lot of energy from them game in and game out. You've got Trey Hannibal not playing, even though he's healthy. Apparently a healthy scratch in a college basketball game you've never heard of before. All the transfers, Frank sitting out half the year. You weren't exactly sure why, and then waiting several months after the season till the middle of summer to decide that he's transferring. It's just a lot of strange things going on. I don't know what it was, but I'm very interested to know what was going on behind closed doors. And now you're seriously lacking some size. It's not good for your possibilities on the court, but I don't know much about this LSU kid. Maybe he's as good as Frank. Frank always seemed to have a ton of potential. I don't remember who the story was, but somebody, when he got recruited, there was like the national writer that said he was destined to be someone that single-handedly beats Kentucky or something crazy along those lines. And you'd see flashes every now and again, but never put it together. And I don't know what kind of offers are going to be out there for him in mid-June at this point, but doesn't make you better. But is it totally surprising? Nothing is totally surprising at this point after what we saw last season.
Mentioned it a little bit earlier, the speculation is that the Gamecocks might end up replacing Frank's roster spot in scholarship with a post player that did play at LSU by the name of Josh Gray. But that's all still unofficial for sure, and we'll see how this ends up playing out for Gamecock basketball. The other Gamecock basketball news that we discussed at length this morning as well, adding a home-and-home series with Georgetown. which that means a much different thing to me at the age of 43 than it does to you at the age of 25, Patrick. And I like the name brand recognition. Patrick Ewing as the head coach there, even though he's kind of embattled at this point, was very fortunate that they won the Big East tournament last year and got into the NCAA tournament for the first time in a while, and will now come to the Colonial Life Arena in December. To me, it's really cool to see a guy who once dominated college basketball, a Hall of Famer in the NBA, and now turned coach at his alma mater, taking his team into the Colonial Life Arena in December. But Georgetown basketball hasn't been a prominent program in a while. And you had the best, I think, comparison comparing that basketball program to Miami football in everything it once was and now is kind of coming up short too.
Yeah, which of those programs is easier or in a better spot to be turned around, or at least to be like a championship level team? I don't even know. I guess Georgetown, just because a couple special players in one class can do it for you. But they just have no momentum right now. There's not a lot that would make a kid who is 16 or 17 years old getting recruited by every school in the country to say, yeah, maybe I should think about Georgetown. Because they don't care about Patrick Ewing. Kids that are in high school right now just don't care.
Did you ever see him play at 25 years old?
No.
Right. So
nope. I mean, I've watched that. I've seen like throwback games of him versus North Carolina. That was the national championship, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Back
I've seen that game.
1983.
Yeah, I've seen that game.
So North Carolina won that one. Georgetown won it the next year in '84, and then they famous or infamously lost it the year after that in '85 to Villanova, one of the biggest upsets ever. I might be skipping a year there. It might have been '82 that I should be talking about for North Carolina. '83 was the NC State big upset over Houston, and then '84 Georgetown wins at '85. They lose it to Villanova. I think that's right from just going off memory there. Anonymous texter just hits us up. Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Caden Rice is a Citadel transfer now up at Georgetown for Patrick Ewing. Appreciate that note. If you would like to get in a final note for us as well, would love to hear from you on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line or Love Chevy phone line, 803-404-6100. Hunter says, giving some summer camp stories today. Went to church camp in North Carolina as a kid, had to explain multiple times that my cock shirt meant I was a Gamecock fan. I can imagine that being a little awkward for sure. We'll try to
might have chosen to not take that particular shirt to camp, you know.
Probably didn't even think about it. Second nature.
No, that's true. For those of us who moved in, that was a cultural adjustment, you know, but that's true. I guess you don't think anything of it when that's what you grew up with.
We mentioned the U.S. Open teeing off tomorrow. A weird headline I thought yesterday coming out of the U.S. Open, and also maybe the strangest golf story that I've ever heard about happening this week as well. We'll finish with that dramatic conclusion of the show coming up next. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
It's a new year. They're hungry, they're driven, and a new attitude. I want guys that want to be here, not just going out there to hire some guy that has a famous last name.
Hey guys, you might want to write this number down. No, you might need to write this number down. 843-524-2404. That's the number for Benji, Getsy, and Buford Lending. Right now, if you're keeping tabs at all on the housing market, you know things are, wow, they unlike they've ever been before in a lot of ways. And if you're looking at maybe into a new house, looking to get in a bigger house, you got a growing family like me, that's where you got some options out there, and you need a lender that you can trust. I've been working with Benji Getsy personally, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, he has my trust, and the numbers that he's shown me have been absolutely fantastic as well. Again, that number for Benji Getsy and Buford Lending, 843-524-2404. Even if you're not looking into expanding your household, maybe refinancing is the way to go for you right now. Maybe you're looking into buying a second home or a VA loan. conventional, construction, renovation, whatever you're looking into right now, Buford Lending and their team with 25 years of experience has done it, and they can get you the best deal out there. That's Buford Lending. Give them a call at 843-524-2404. All right, Patrick, the question is, can I hang on for the last 10, 15 minutes or so, needing a bathroom break?
Uh-oh.
I can do it. I'm not going to leave you hanging in the commercial break like some other hosts do on this show. It's just
Every
rude.
commercial break.
Probably need to get some sort of emergency plan together here in the garage.
A bucket.
What's that? Sorry?
A bucket.
Yeah, some sort of emergency plan.
Uh-oh.
What's that?
Shams just tweeted Chris Paul is for COVID-19 protocol.
Wow. That's why it's good to be in the winner's bracket and already moved on, huh?
Yeah. You better hope that thing goes. Jazz flipping through. Buy all the time you can.
Mm-hmm. Wow, finished 5th in the MVP voting at the age of 36. Pretty strong. So I'll let you hit that breaking news right out of the break, and then we'll talk about this golf deal for a little bit.
What would you buy with a $12 million signing bonus? Just Bitcoin. Lots of Bitcoin. Just convert it all.
Talking about J.C. Horn, huh? How would the conversation have changed back in is it November? Maybe the end of October when Horn opts out? If you knew he was getting a $12 million signing bonus, would you have changed your mind?
Would have understood it more. Yep.
Patrick, you're the hockey guy. They are doing the Canadian trip now, aren't they? Are they able to play in Canada?
Yeah, and I think they might have completely changed the rules, and they're going to potentially let Montreal fill up their arena now as well. Because Canadians are huge in Quebec. They're everything.
Why not, Craig, is my question. It was a really bad look, man. I mean, it was bad all the way around, but the Sedarius Hutcherson, like, my parents didn't raise me that way speech resonated with me.
Well, and then him and McQuamu and Kinlaw and Debo all calling out the fans over the next couple of days. Terrible look for everybody.
Yeah, I haven't heard any change for the Blue Jays. Have you?
No. I I do wonder how that's going to stick with everybody. Like, is everyone going to get over Horn opting out and hope that he succeeds in Carolina? And then is everyone just going to forever hold a grudge against Javon Kinlaw? Or I don't know how long that's going to last.
No.
If you had $12 million, could you even just buy a box in Williams-Brice, or are they just not available?
Good question. I have no idea about the purchases of luxury boxes.
Because York just said he would use his $12 million to upgrade his tailgate. Thinking, if you have all the money in the world, what is the absolute top of the line, most luxurious way for you to spend a Saturday? Is it a Cockaboost? Is the Cockaboost as good as it gets? I wouldn't think there's probably something.
Probably do Cockaboos and luxury suite.
Yeah, I would think
Back in.
Okay, we'll get to Grant right off the top here.
Okay. You're up.
Patrick, you noticed some breaking NBA news here in the last few minutes?
Yeah, from Shams Charania, it looks like Chris Paul is being entered into the COVID-19 protocols, and he's out for an indefinite period of time. We don't know if this will affect the Western Conference Finals. Apparently, there's different
times for isolation if he's vaccinated or unvaccinated, and I don't know if he is or not. Nobody really does. So his status is in jeopardy, and he is a vital part of that Suns team. So if they don't have him for any of the series, it is going to be tough sledding.
Got to get the winner of what? Clippers and who they
Jazz.
Jazz. I was going to say it out loud, and it didn't sound right to me. Paul, 36 years old, just finished 5th in the MVP voting for the Suns, who have been pretty tremendous. The only team that has advanced to the conference finals so far in the NBA. Golf note: I thought it was weird yesterday that the headline was Koepka and DeChambeau not playing together. That was the U.S. Open headline. There are varying reports on there. Some say that DeChambeau's camp kind of told the USGA not to do it. Then there's also reports out there that said the USGA never even asked those two golfers who are living out the rivalry. We'll see how that works out this weekend. It won't work out any uglier than on the Corn Ferry Tour. Did you see this, Patrick? The cops
was there a fight?
Cops had to show up on a qualifier this Monday, this event going on in Wichita, and apparently a guy's dad was caddying for him in the threesome. The dad was telling the other guy that the reason we're not helping you find your ball is you're not hitting it straight enough, and this group was behind, and so the guy kind of pushed the dad off of him, and then the player stuck up for his dad and allegedly held the victim down until he said uncle. And then the cops showed up. So
Didn't the guy? I thought they arrested the guy because
Yep.
I think he said he wanted to press charges.
Yeah.
Oh,
unbelievable, right?
ridiculous.
Hey, Grant, you've been waiting a long time on Love Chevy phone lines to tell us where your 5 destinations would be. Let's finish up with that. What do you got? Number 1 through 5.
All right, so after 4 years in Europe,
45.
I got to give you 6. It's going to be Dublin, Prague, Rome, Athens, Malta, and Gibraltar.
Well done. And if you have to cut one of those, what are you cutting?
30.
It's a tough program. Grant, we asked hard-hitting questions.
Malta. I'd have to cut Malta. But it's so beautiful.
Good to know, sir. Thank you for the phone call. Appreciate the patience.
Good way to end it.
Yeah, good camp stories, bad camp stories, top 5 cities in the world to visit, and some sports. Thanks for listening to the early game here on 107.5 The Game. Dan Patrick Show coming up next.
WNKT-FM, Eastover, Columbia. It's all sports, all the time.
All right, strong finish,
All right.
Patrick, sir, as always.
Way to hold it.
Yeah, I'm getting there, but this live, video's got to end right now. Thank you for helping, and talk to you tomorrow.